Skittles,
Why
but they just like put it. They just like.
Why didn't you get zombie Skittles?
Because they are gross, and I've heard you describe them.
Yes.
As
well,
like a top-notch worst thing you've ever had.
There's only one per pack, so it's not like so you don't know if you're going to get it.
I would get it on number one. Spicy Skittles, as I both love Skittles and spicy things, I was all in on that.
So they add like cinnamon to them. I mean, I wonder how they're
like hot chili pepper dusted gummy Skittles. They're delightful. So she wanted a Halloween costume.
Give me some of them Skitties.
They were so good. I got my spicy Skittles. So we walk into the back. And we also wanted to go ahead and grab candy because while historically speaking, we get like 3 to 5 trick-or-treaters on Halloween night. It's very disappointing. We spend a lot of time decorating our house for like 3 people.
Probably because a kid walks up and you go, "Hey, what kind of candy do you want?"
Okay, well, that's just...
It just scares the kids to death. They're like...
Inaccurate and rude.
There's where the loud guy lives. I don't want any candy from him.
No, we do. The wife and I, we take the camping chairs out in the front yard. We got our 12-foot skeleton. We sit right in front of him. We got the scary lights and the music playing. We got the fog machine out there and everything. So we got a inflatable Jack Skellington and Oogie Boogie from the greatest Halloween movie of all time.
Oogie Boogie's a little
Oogie
freaky.
Boogie's a goat.
He's definitely freaky.
Bad guy.
I've never seen the movie. I have.
Oh, dude, it's so good.
Yeah, I've played.
And it's a 2-holiday movie. It's utilitarian movie.
Yeah, well, I know all the characters because it was in Kingdom Hearts 1 or 2, I forget, and you play in that land.
Goated movie.
Yeah.
So we sit out there, we get like 2-3 trick-or-treaters, whatever. Anyway, point is, we always go get the candy. And we did come to the realization that we don't buy that much candy because we're going to get 1,000 trick-or-treaters. We buy that much candy because we can give a bunch to the 3 or 4 kids that come by in our neighborhood, and then we just have candy for a month and a half after that available and at the rate.
It's a bad move for you with all the weight you've lost.
No, it's not ideal, but it's candy and that's good. So we went to the store yesterday to pick up the candy, to pick up some decorations, whatever. And as we walked through the store and we were getting to the back of the store, the Christmas stuff is out and everywhere. And I came to the realization. And not only did I come to the realization, but I brought this up to a couple of people, and I was told that I'm alone in this. Thanksgiving is the most disrespected holiday, and I have a real problem with it. I have a real problem with the absolute level of disrespect that this country shows to Thanksgiving.
Well, here's
a massive problem.
Here's the problem with Thanksgiving is a very important holiday. It's, one of the most important holidays in the country. But there's no shopping tied to it other than buying turkeys. And so every other one, there's shopping tied to it.
I mean, I get it. And that was pointed out to me yesterday was the reality that, all right, Rob, you want more respect for Thanksgiving, but like, where's the impetus for the store, right? Like you don't put up your Thanksgiving aisle, right? That's not a thing. And I said, okay, that's actually a valid point. I get it.
You do in a grocery store and it's full of like stuffing and
sure
and yams,
but
and
like
stuff.
not at a department store, right? Like there's no Thanksgiving decorations that you go get. And I don't know why it bothered me, but it is disrespected. And on top of that, we're still a week out from Halloween.
Go to Hobby Lobby. They've got
Hobby Lobby has more Christmas stuff out than anybody else. I was there.
No, by the way, they do, but they also have a bunch of fall stuff.
See, I don't care about fall stuff.
Yeah, but I guess fall things technically
stuff.
That's as close to Thanksgiving as you're going to get.
Fair enough. Ladies and gentlemen,
you want to buy pilgrim hats and stuff? Is that what you want?
I have nothing for that.
I think you could rock a pilgrim hat. I think you should do that. I think you should stand up for Thanksgiving, and for the entire month of November, you should wear a pilgrim hat.
Buckles on the shoes. We can bring that back into style. Ladies and gentlemen, we got a show lined up for you today. A lot that we need to get into. We had not one but 2 National Football League contests last night on a Monday Night Football. Neither one of them, honestly, not really entertaining. Like you got a little bit out of Baker Mayfield and the Buccaneers, but ultimately Detroit was in charge of that game. I was going to say I don't know what's happened to the Houston Texans, but yes, I do. I do know exactly what's happened to the Houston Texans. We're going to get to that.
When we get to, I just want to throw out a question there. You can use it or not use it. Knowing what we know now, all the people, and I'm included, who would rather have C.J. Stroud at the Panthers, would you still take him now over Bryce Young?
I mean, the good news is you're not asking me that question.
Right. Well, I think
and
when we
why
talk
aren't
about
you asking me that question?
I think when we talk about it, I think we should bring that up because I'm curious with Panthers fans.
I think if anybody says yes to that question, it might make my head explode.
Oh, I'm saying yes. But,
why?
But I have bias because I have bias.
So you acknowledge that it comes from a place of bias and
that's not
objective football.
That's not the only reason, but that's a good part of it. Yes.
I mean, as long as you acknowledge that, I
have never said that I don't have bias. I have bias all over the place.
We're going to get to that later on in the radio program. We've also got to get to the other side of the equation, Detroit and Tampa Bay, but I don't think there is anywhere else that we can start. I'm sorry to those of you that dislike the baseballing, but it is 4 days from the Fall Classic. The World Series is set. The Seattle Mariners eliminated from postseason contention last night by the Toronto Blue Jays. Don't call him George Springer. Call him George Dinger, because last night he had the giant dong that put Toronto up on top of Seattle, a lead that they would not relinquish. We go to the bottom of the ninth. The Mariners find themselves with an opportunity, 2 down. Julio Rodriguez, who 2 years ago was the absolute darling of the Seattle Mariners. This year, of course, they got the acid one. That would be acid, ASSED, not ACID. The big dumper, Cal Raleigh. Julio comes to the dish. He's got 2 down, Cal Raleigh on deck. Now, both of these guys had already gone yard in this game to give the Seattle Mariners a 3-1 lead. Then in the bottom of the 7th, George Springer comes to the dish. He goes gigantic dong out to center field. A 3-run shot that made it 4-3. Julio comes to the plate. He's up against Chris Bassett. It's just got the makings of an all-time baseball finish. Julio, come up, get on base. Cal, the big dumper. Raleigh, come to the dish, go yard. Let's walk this thing off. Let's go home. And instead, Julio strikes out, and I cannot make this up. Did not see a single pitch in the strike zone and struck out. Let me say that again. Did not see a single pitch in the strike zone and struck out.
So the pitcher fooled him.
Oh, yeah, it was, listen,
okay.
It was Bassett.
That sounds masterful by the pitcher.
It was absolutely masterful by the pitcher. Jeff Hoffman was in there, got credited for his second save of the postseason. Hoffman was in there, got a couple of Ks, brings up Julio, low and away, Julio whiffs, low and away, Julio whiffs, one in the dirt, one a little outside, low and away, Julio whiffs. And I get when you're sitting in that spot, when you've got the opportunity. In fact, I think it was 2-0 at one point. At one point, Julio was up in the count 2-0. I get that you want to protect the plate. When it is bottom 9, down 1, you've got nobody on, you are the tying run, and your best hitter is next up to the dish. I get that you have got to protect the plate. But, man, you are swinging at just garbage low and away, Julio. Like, this is a dude I very much like. He's entertaining. In fact, if it wasn't for the emergence of Cal the Big Dumper Raleigh, Julio Rodriguez would be the face of the Mariners. He was the face of the Mariners. He was the rookie phenom a while back. And then Cal Raleigh showed up and went 60 dongs over the course of the season, kind of changed everything. You cannot, in that moment, if you want to be a star, you can't go trying to 9-iron a baseball low and away when you've already gotten fooled twice by low and away. You can't do it. Like, I get protect the plate. That was just bad. So the Mariners end up going away despite winning 2 games in a row on the road to open the series. They give 2 back out of 3 in Seattle, and Toronto is able to get 2 more back at the crib, and that's it. So now we get Toronto taking on the LA Dodgers. And I want to be excited about this series. I do. Because I would make the argument that, number one, you ended up with the two number one seed. Excuse me. You ended up with the 1 seed and a 2 seed. The National League NL is the 3 seed. Why do I say 2? I know this. I just looked at the bracket. The Dodgers are the 3 seed. They did have to go through a wild card round. But the reason I have it in my head is because this team has clearly been the best team in the National League in the postseason. Clearly. And I pointed out the fact that it felt throughout the course of the season that if you could sit down the Dodgers, if you could take the bats away from them, if you could prevent them from getting comfortable at the plate and scattering baseballs around the city of Los Angeles, if you could prevent the bats from heating up and you could keep the Dodgers to 2 and 3 run games, you would beat the Dodgers more often than you would not. But the reality of the situation is they're winning low-scoring games. And so while Toronto has been very fortunate with their pitching, like very good with the pitching, the problem is LA is better than everybody off the bump right now. And more importantly than that, LA can win 2 and 3 score baseball games at this point. They can beat you with the small ball, and they just got to wait until the bats get hot. And the bats eventually get hot for LA. They got too much talent 1 through 9. It doesn't matter where you look on the Dodger lineup. And I'm not saying the Blue Jays don't have a good team. But when we get down to the, Dalton Varsho, when we get down to Clement, to Barger, you just don't have the matchups that you have when you're looking at the LA lineup. So it's at the point now where I'm not going to say that the World Series is a foregone conclusion. I'm not going to say that it's just LA's world and everybody's living in it because, I love the World Series. I hope it's 7 games. I hope it's greatness. I hope we have an elimination game in Toronto. I'm really excited that an East Coast team got in because now we won't have every World Series game going first pitch at 10 p.m. But I'm most excited that we've got the best team in the American League. I was pulling for Seattle. Seattle will remain the only team in Major League Baseball who has never been to a World Series. There are 30 teams in MLB. Seattle is the only team that has never been to a World Series. And so I want to talk about that, but I'm also going to set you up for the question of the day, which we don't do very often, but I'm going to do one today. I've got a dear friend of mine. Name is Chris, lives right here in the Ville. Big Seattle guy, big Mariners guy. He and I have been texting pretty much every game of the playoffs. And my buddy Chris, who's a member of the Soccer Supporter Club, my buddy Chris, big Seattle guy, last night obviously went completely MIA when that game went final. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not blowing the phone up. Like, I get it. I've been there. I can't imagine what that feeling must be like. Except for I don't have to. Because I know what my biggest sports night of heartbreak was. 2006 NFC Championship game. The New Orleans Saints are on the road taking on the Chicago Bears. This is not the pass interference. That wasn't call. 2006. This is young Drew Brees. This is Reggie Bush. This is the New Orleans Saints in their first NFC Championship game. They're taking on the Bears. And everything felt like team of destiny, man. Like everything felt like team of destiny for that squad. It was an opportunity to book ourselves a ticket to our first Super Bowl. Like it was time. It was on the way. And we end up getting our asses beat by the Bears. We had knocked off Philadelphia in the NFC divisional round. Philadelphia had knocked out the Giants. We were the 2 seed. Chicago, the 1 seed. Chicago just slipped by Seattle in their divisional round. The Saints felt like a team of destiny that year. And we ended up losing the NFC Championship game. It was tantalizing. It was titillating at that point. And then we lose that game. And I got to tell you, I can remember it's 2006. We are talking about a game that took place damn near 20 years ago, which also, ouch, but damn near 20 years ago. And I remember the pain of that night. That is my biggest night of sports heartbreak. So I would like to ask you yours. I'm not talking about a season that you came up short. I'm not talking about a player that maybe didn't have the night you wanted him to have. What is the biggest individual game of sports heartbreak for you? Mine, the 2006 NFC Championship game. The Saints, as close as they had ever gotten to a Super Bowl, thought we were the team of destiny, got smoked by Chicago, who were absolute buttholes in that game, by the way. I'll tell you about that later. What is your number one heartbreak game? The game that the pain from it is memorable. The pain from it is still with you today. All right, we'll talk about that. We'll get some football in here. I actually got confronted yesterday for my Lenora Sellers take. It's first time somebody came up to me and they were like, "Are you Rob?" Yeah. And they went, "I want you to know your take sucked today." And I went, "Oh, okay." First time it's ever happened.
That's what happens when you're a hot take guy. You get confronted.
You know me. Ladies and gentlemen, all aboard the Hot Take Express. Choo-choo. The Rob Brown Show's on your radio. It's the Fan Upstate.
QC.
All right, good morning, everybody. Stay right there. Got a live read. We'll be right back after this. Don't go anywhere. I'm going to put you all on warning later. I am going to science rant about a comet, an interstellar object later in the show. I'm not going to do it now.
By the way, I found the picture that I was talking about. The video. I'll send it to you in case you didn't see it. For later.
We're going to get to it later. I'm sorry. You're just all going to have to deal with some nerdy stuff coming up later on in the show. You just are.
That counts. I don't know what that has to do with sports, though.
Nothing at all. But you did this. It is Lonzo's fault, and you will all have to live with the ramifications of it.
We talk about interesting things off the air. I find it interesting. You are offended by it. So
yes.
All right.
Yes.
All right.
Because
but we're doing it later.
This country is growing in scientific illiteracy, it's infuriating.
It's not the country. It's all over. Always with you, it's the country. It's all over the world.
Yeah, well, I live in the country.
Yeah, that's
and
also your reasoning.
I'm sorry. Do we not expect better of our country than others?
You know what
do we not expect better?
You know what you also do? You live on the world.
Yes, I do. I am fine to acknowledge that I am a global citizen, but when I do that, I get told, "Oh, you're woke, Rob."
No,
you're woke.
Maybe a globalist.
You're
as a globalist, you're representing the planet.
You're probably a fan of gay frogs.
Okay, all right. I'm just saying, as a globalist, you're a fan of the world first, and then your country second.
No, I'm a fan of my country first, which is why I want us to be better than going aliens. Okay, we're not doing that. I can't do this now. My blood pressure is rising. I can literally feel it. I can feel it right now. I am blood pressure difference. I can feel it in my body years old at this point. I would like to get to a couple of things here on the show. In last night's game between the Detroit Lions and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, there was a moment that had a lot of Tampa Bay fans, including Baker, up in the air. There was a third down in the game. Where the Buccaneers were up against it. They found themselves down, I believe the score was 21-9 at that point. Tampa Bay's got it on third down, and the Lions collapse the pocket. They do so. Baker Mayfield is scrambling forward, trying to climb in the pocket, and he finds a crossing Cade Otton, the tight end. It was not third down. It was 4th and 4. It was 4th and 4. He finds Cade Otton. Otton apparently makes the catch, lunges ahead, and is credited with the first down. The officials go to the review. The officials uphold that Otton had secured the catch and a subsequent first down after the Lions challenged the play. After the review was announced, the official was called back to the instant replay center. And Baker Mayfield pointed it out as one of a few things that he was relatively upset about from the officiating crew.
Third down defensive holding call that wasn't called, and also still pretty damn confused about the double review. A lot of things in that game that a little questionable, but a lot of frustration at the end of that. And it might be displaced onto John Hussey in the moment, but I work off and I put a lot into this game. So when things that I don't seem are deemed fair, I'm going to let somebody know. And that's good, bad, and different.
And I respect that.
How big is this fine going to be?
I don't know is the answer. It's not going to be 0, but I don't think he was like over aggressive.
He spoke out to officials and he mentioned an official by name. He's going to get hammered.
We'll see. I don't know is the answer to that. So effectively what happened is initially it was ruled as a first down. Dan Campbell issued a challenge. On the first replay, the call was upheld. The referee announced it. John Hussey announced it. The Buccaneer offense came back onto the field. But before the next play snapped, the referees announced upon a second review that Cade Otton did not reach the line to gain, turning the ball over to the Lions on the Tampa Bay 40-yard line and effectively ending the game. After the comment from Baker Mayfield, the NFL sent out Mark Butterworth, the NFL Vice President of Instant Replay, for the explanation. Butterworth said to a reporter, quote, We were trying to mirror angles together. Later in the process, we received an enhanced view from the broadcast that showed that when the knee was down, the ball was short of the line to gain. We were having issues with the referee's 020, the official-to-official communication system, which is why he was brought back to the monitor. We did not show him anything on the screen at that point. It was simply to communicate, to clean up the ruling on the field. Effectively, when the review was done, and John Hussey was at the monitor the first time, they showed every available angle. They decided in that moment that K-Dotton had reached the line to gain. Then, after the review process was completed, and John Hussey had gone back onto the field to make the announcement, the folks in the HQ in New York City looked at another angle that was not initially available that they got from the broadcast. Now, I don't know what angle they were looking at, but they apparently, according to the NFL, if you elect to believe them, found another angle. They did not show the referee that angle.
There was a dude in the crowd with a phone, and he look, I found, and he sent.
Well, they specifically said it was from the broadcast.
Okay.
So they found another angle from the broadcast. They took a look at that angle from the broadcast, and they said, okay, this is a better, more clear angle of where the down was, and it was not at the first down marker. So they called John Hussey back over, and they said the reason we called John Hussey back over was because the communication system that we have that allows us in New York to speak directly to the head referee when he is on the field was not working. So the only way we could talk to him was to bring him back over to the replay monitor and put the big headset on him to inform him that we were changing the result of the replay, even though he had already announced the change to the replay. So there are two arguments that I've heard about this. And as a staunch defender of utilizing instant replay to get calls correct, as a staunch defender, I have a couple of responses. The first thing that I saw was, if a referee has already come out and announced that the result of a challenge is X, then we should just stop and move on. And my answer is, why? Well, they've already announced it. Okay, but they announced it was wrong. What they announced was incorrect. If that is the argument you want to make, then why would you not take that step one further and say, well, they've already announced the down. They've already announced the fumble. They've already announced the pick.
How's that any different than when a whistle blows?
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Because when a whistle blows, that's it.
Right.
Even if the play would have continued, the play's over. That
is exactly what I'm saying.
So whatever their first thing was should have been it. Shouldn't have been a correction afterwards.
If your argument
you could send that apology that they do, sorry, we got it wrong.
If your argument is that when the official makes a statement, after review, the call on the field is upheld, first down Tampa, then that becomes the fact.
That should be final. Is that what you believe? That's what I believe.
I absolutely do not.
Okay, I do.
If you have,
because you're going to spend a bunch of time wait, no, we got it wrong. Stop the game again. Let's fix this.
Correct, but if they do that, you know what they get? It right.
Yeah. Okay.
And I would. Do you not prefer it? This is the classic get it fast versus get it right argument. What matters to you more, getting it fast or getting it right?
For a network that's trying to squeeze something into us, it's getting it fast. It for sure is.
Then cut a minute of commercials out of the broadcast.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
No, I don't disagree. But if you want to say that it is more important to have that extra 60 seconds of commercial time, then you don't give a damn about the integrity of the game. I care about the integrity of the game.
It also has to do with attention spans of viewers. When you suddenly you're going away, people are like, oh, you know what? I wonder what's going on in Raw right now. And then you tune away from it. You're going to lose viewers, and I think that's also a consideration.
As someone with clinically...
That was a quick eye roll, but it was an eye roll.
As someone, it was not an eye roll. I was looking up to see what Jared Goff had to say about it. As someone with clinically diagnosed ADHD, who every morning in break number 1 has to leave this office, go over to the office, the Fortress of Nerditude, and take a pill specifically to deal with that. That's a you problem. That's a you problem. Here's what I want.
I thought
want
you
a
took
referee.
those pills to deal with me.
No, there's 3 pills. If the referee was to come out and go,
after reviewing the play, the call stands. We're not going to overturn it, though, because somebody may have flipped over to wrestling, and we don't want to jack up their attention span, so the call on the field stands.
No. If you get an angle and it looks right. Now, there is a second part to this conversation. And the second part to this conversation is one that the Great One's been dealing with for a while, because he is a firm believer that there is a league-wide conspiracy out there to help the Jacksonville Jaguars and no other teams at all anywhere. And this, of course, fired up the conspiracy theorist across the NFL last night. And, of course, that's the fun one. We're going to deal with a lot of conspiracy theories today. The NFL and giant space rocks. I'm Rob. He's Lonzo. The Rob Brown Show is on your radio. It's a sports and science show here on the Fan Upstate.
You were so close to going sports and science.
Well,
it was just
actually.
a little bit close.
Hussey is a great name. I actually worked with a lady when I did TV news back in Pensacola named Laura Hussey.
My wife hates it because if we're watching a game and he's on it, I'm like, get it right, you hussy.
It's fair. It's fair. I said that at one point. Yes, it is an NFL Zapruder film. I love it. All right, stay right there, guys. Be right back. So the conspiracy theorist made their reappearance across the NFL last night. We talked a little bit about the double review. If you believe the story of the National Football League, it was not a double review, as Baker Mayfield called it. Effectively, what had happened was Baker Mayfield threw a pass to Cade Otton on 4th and 4. It was a 4-yard pass. Otton caught the ball, completed the pass, which they reviewed, and then laid out to try to get the first down. Upon review, the initial review, it was determined that Cade Otton did indeed catch the ball, secure the ball, and take it to the ground. And Cade Otton did indeed, in stretching out, reach the first down marker. The head official, John Hussey, went back out onto the field. He announced the results of the instant replay review, that the pass was completed and the first down was upheld. After he made the announcement, but before Tampa could get the next play off, John Hussey suddenly sprinted back to the replay monitor, put on the headset, came back out a few seconds later, and said, after a secondary review, it has been determined that Cade Otton did not reach the line to gain for the first down. That is a turnover on downs, Detroit football. The story from the NFL goes that during the initial review, there was one particular broadcast angle that was not available. But after John Hussey had departed to go back out onto the field to make the call, another angle became available from the broadcast. But they say John Hussey's on-field communications device, which allows the people at NFL HQ in New York City to beep down to him.
Hey, John, we got another angle. We're going to overturn that. Come on back.
So he could not hear the NFL HQ saying, no, it's wrong. In order to communicate with that, they had someone off the field signal to John Hussey, hey, we need you to come back. He went back to the broadcast monitor, not to look at another angle, but to put the headset back on and be told. NFL HQ is actually overturning the call now. So go back out there and announce the call is overturned. So the conspiracy theorists came out last night because last week, the Detroit Lions were on the road at the Kansas City Chiefs. And there are NFL fans who believe that there were at least a couple of calls out of that game that were controversial.
By the way, those people are idiots. I just want to say that you are not smart in any way. You have no cause to be watching football or any sport, period. You need to find a cave, go in the cave, stay in said cave. You are the definition of dumb. If you believe that stuff, you're an idiot. And all you people were quiet when Kansas City was losing. You didn't hear any of that, did you? Did you see any of that, Rob? Did you hear any of that, Rob? No, but as soon as they win a game, all of a sudden, oh, see? Then they're back on the internet. They're back. You guys are so dumb. Gosh. I mean, I've been quiet about it for so long, but I don't understand how you can call yourself intelligent in any way.
Okay. Passionate. I like it. So I will start with a couple of things. The first is that there absolutely were a couple of calls in that Detroit-Kansas City game that were not ideal. There were a couple. I'm not saying that it was a conspiracy. I'm not saying it was help the Chiefs. I'm not saying any of that.
And I would say that just about every game you could find something like that if you're looking for it.
I don't disagree.
Especially when it comes to non-calls. If they wanted to call a penalty, they could on every single play of every single game. There is holding going on. There is something going on that they could call it on, and they don't.
I don't disagree, but not all missed calls are created equal. There are some that just are more impactful. Again, I think I am comfortable saying, and I'll make it about me, the missed call in the 2019 NFC Championship game was a hell of a lot more impactful than not calling the hold on the left tackle when the quarterback's 5 yards outside to the right. They're both missed calls, but one is more impactful on the game.
Well, it depends on what point of the game it is.
I don't think it does.
To think about the offsides for the Chiefs when they were playing New England, and I don't remember years like you do, that happened. It actually happened, and they called it, and sometimes they don't call that, and it cost them the game against New England.
I don't
And
disagree.
then New England goes to the Super Bowl.
I would also make the argument that there have been a lot of false starts on the tush push that haven't been called that have created Philly touchdowns. Those are more impactful than a lot of other missed calls. But the point is, there were a lot of folks that made the argument that there were some calls in the Detroit-Kansas City game that were controversial, that they believe, those people believe, did indeed help out the Kansas City Chiefs.
So this is a makeup. So they're on the side of Detroit this week to make up for what they did last week.
That is exactly what the conspiracy theory is.
Oh, so stupid.
The theory is that much like in a game, when a miscall happens, there is the belief that there is such a thing as the makeup call. All right, we blew that one, but we're going to give you that 5 or 10 or 15 yards back with another call somewhere else in the game. Next play, next drive, whatever, we'll give you a makeup call. And there are a lot of conspiracy theorists out there that believe that. There was and I do not remember specifically who it was. I wish I would have grabbed their tweet before the game started, but there was a NFL analyst from one of the networks who said going into the game, I would be willing to bet my life Detroit is going to win and cover against Tampa. Said effectively, after what happened to the Lions against the Chiefs, they will get a couple of things to go back in their direction over Tampa Bay that will ensure a win.
Wow.
That's the conspiracy.
That's like going to a psychic or a palm reader. I feel like these things could happen. Shut up.
Well, I mean, look.
I mean, there are people making predictions like that all the time. Then when they come true, see? And how many times do they make those predictions and they don't come true?
I would say that it's there are times when and you know me, like, no, I think people who do tarot readings and psychic evaluations, I think they're all grifters. I think they're all frauds. I think they're all liars.
Just like the guy that put out that tweet. He's the same as those people.
Let me finish my
same
thought.
As them.
Let me finish my thought. That is, I would disagree with that. It is also kind of like in situations where, a powerful organization vows that they will do an investigation internally of wrongdoing. It's not that difficult to predict that they're going to do their investigation and find that they did nothing wrong. There's a difference. So what I will say, now that I've gone in that direction, because I would say that it was actually pointed out in this game that I think it was actually the same drive that the double replay took place on. There was a very clear and evident tripping call that should have been called against Detroit that was not called. Baker Mayfield was in the pocket. I think it was Aiden Hutchinson that was coming off. No, it was Wheat was coming off the left side. And as Baker Mayfield tried to take a step back and roll out to his right, the defensive end kicked his left foot way out, like some ninja stuff. Kicked his left leg way out and kicked Baker Mayfield in the shin. Baker Mayfield went down. That is, letter of the law definition, a tripping call that would have awarded Tampa Bay a first down, but it was not called. Now, in real time, it was very easy to miss. In fact, I did. And I don't remember which of the play-by-play crew it was, but on the replay, on the instant replay, one of them said, oh, there's a pretty evident leg whip trip that got missed. That's a call that should have been made. And so the point here is, and let me lay the foundation. I do not believe that there is a league-wide conspiracy to tip games. I don't think there can be. I think that there are too many people that must be involved just in that play last night. In order for that to be the case, you would have to have multiple people in NFL HQ, at least one person in the broadcast, a head referee, and the entire officiating crew all involved in a decision to do that. Or at least two guys in NFL HQ that go, hey, let's lie to the head official and make him overturn this call to give Detroit the advantage. However, what I will say is the reason why I want the NFL to do what the ACC did this year. We talked about this a few weeks ago when the ACC started doing this. When the ACC this year has gone to instant replay, they literally broadcast it, right? Like when the official goes to the monitor, they put the official in one box on the screen. They put ACC headquarters in Charlotte on the other box, and then they put what the referee is actually looking at on his monitor on the TV. And then they go live mic on the ref and ACC HQ. And so you hear the ref going,
show me 7A.
And then the TV screen flips and they show you that broadcast angle, and you hear ACC HQ going,
all right, well, this angle, it definitely looks like his foot got down, but let's check 7C.
And then they'll flip to that angle, and it's like the same moment, and they'll sync them all up and run them back and forth. You get to not just listen to the conversation, but you also get to watch the video that is driving the conversation. This is something that the NFL could enact now, and it would kill off any controversy, any conspiracy. And I will say that this is kind of one of those things, especially now that it has been done. Because over the last couple of years, when people like me have said, why don't we just broadcast the conversation? Why don't we broadcast the conversation? Why don't you just put the replay review live on television and kill the question marks? And in years gone by, the argument from both conferences and the league has regularly been, well, we don't really want to go because that will just drive further controversy. I don't think it will. Unless you are actively making decisions that are clearly against what is being shown by 19 different camera angles on the TV. But if you show all that and you give us a conversation, you know what we have not heard? A single replay controversy in the ACC this year. Not one. But that is because they are quite literally broadcasting how they are arriving at the conclusions that they are arriving at. If the NFL wants to kill the conspiracy, they just need to do that. Just broadcast that. Well, we're not going to do it because nobody's ever done it before. Well, now somebody has. And not only have they showed you that it works. And not only have they showed you that it works. And it's one of the most entertaining aspects of the game. Buddy, if I'm stuck watching Pitt Wake Forest, how they do an instant replay review is sometimes more entertaining than Pitt v. Wake Forest. Like, it's good. So just do that. Because while I don't think there is an NFL conspiracy, there's just too many people that would have to be involved and never say a word. And unless Big Dom is not only patrolling the Eagles sideline, but if you were to ever go out and say, hey, there's some questions about the replay, suddenly Big Dom knocks on your front door, which I don't think is happening. There's too many people involved. Just show us the replay. If they would have put the mic on John Hussey both times last night, we're not having the discussion, and Baker Mayfield doesn't say a word in the press conference, and everything changes. Like the ACC, here's a sentence I've never said before. The ACC is a front runner in football with this. Just do that and fix it. All right, let's take a break. You are going to get to listen to the live hot mic of Lonzo during the Sports Flash.
We used to have a Big Dom here. You didn't want him showing up at your door.
You should do the Sports Flash in this voice.
No. The World Series is set with the Toronto Blue Jays claiming the American League crown with a 4-3 win over Seattle in Game 7 and booking a ticket to square off with the National League champion Los Angeles Dodgers. The Mariners trailed 3-1 in the 7th inning when George Springer launched a 3-run shot to take the lead. Fall Classic starts Friday night. The Detroit Lions hammered Tampa Bay 24-9 for the 5th win of the season. Jared Goff went 20-29 for 241 yards with 1 touchdown and 1 pick, but it was Jahmyr Gibbs' 136 yards and 2 touchdowns that made the difference. Seattle took a 27-19 victory over Houston on the back of Sam Darnold's 17 of 31, 213-yard night. That included 1 touchdown and 1 pick. The Seahawks held Houston to just 56 rushing yards, and C.J. Stroud to 23 of 49 for 229 yards, 1 touchdown and 1 pick. Am I really angry about the ref things with the Chiefs? I am, because of inconsistency. Because so those 3 games that the Chiefs lost, they lost because they didn't want it to look suspicious. That's why they did it. They didn't want it to look like the refs were doing what you guys are saying they're doing. It just makes no sense.
Injured by an auto accident, slip and fall, medical malpractice, or a dog bite, I would love to be your attorney. Please give me a call at 864-CALL-ROB or visit me online at 864callrob.com.
Ingles, low prices, love the savings. Did you know that Ingles sells more organic than any other grocery store? Or that they run their own dairy? Or that they only serve USDA frozen pet meat?
Unless, of course, what they did is Hussey and the boys, they got together and decided, okay, in order for it to not look like that we're helping the Chiefs to win, we're going to let them lose a minimum of 3 games. And in those 3 games, we're going to call a ton of penalties against them. So then all the people who are on to us and know that we're making the Chiefs win, then suddenly they'll be silent and they'll have nothing to say. And I don't believe that the majority of the people who are out there saying and posting that stuff actually believe it. I believe that they're following along because it's cool and their team sucks. That's what I think. I sent you that video, by the way. Of Atlas. It's right above the T-shirt that I'm sure you want to get.
I literally just saw the T-shirt and I was like, I might buy that shirt. That's a funny shirt.
See all those lights? That's no moon. That's a space station.
I will bet you right now, just looking at it, I'll bet you right now that within 2 days, somebody pulls that video apart and shows that it has added effects to it. And the reason I say that is...
Oh, it probably is. I just,
The reason it is a lot of down underneath
Japan, and they do a lot of animation.
No, well, there's also that. The Rob Brown Show back on your radio. It's the Fan Upstate. Rob Brown, the Great Lonzo, and Hugh rolling through a Tuesday morning edition of the show. And what an addition to the show we've had. We've already addressed not 1, but 2 conspiracy theories here on the radio program. One about interstellar object 3I Atlas, which we'll come back to later on because some of y'all need to read a science book. Just like one, and an NFL conspiracy theory.
By the way, I think these are the same people. but that's just me.
You know how you feel about the NFL conspiracy theory people? That's how I feel about the 3i Atlas conspiracy theory people. Stop. Just stop. Just read a book. Just read one science book. Just read a science book. Here's the
difference between me and you. I'm willing to be on the earth when it's destroyed just to see a look on your face when you're wrong.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'm willing to do that.
That's fine. And also,
because we're all going to die anyway, if that would happen, I want to see the look on your face, though.
But also,
give me a taste of happiness right before the end.
Lonzo stares off at the fireball raising across the sky and goes, I told you, you son of a... That's when Lonzo drops his first, last, and only cuss word on me. I told you, you son of a bleep. Oh, dude, what a way to go out. What a way to go out. All right, we got a lot we got to get to here on the radio program. We got a lot of NFL. Somebody pointed out yesterday, and I think this is fun. Have you looked at the standings across the NFC right now? The standings across the NFC are absolutely wild. The NFC right now, I don't know the exact record, but it's like the NFC right now is like 27-19 against, or 27-13 against the AFC right now. Like the NFC is dominating the AFC in head-to-head competition. And the distance from the 1 seed to the 9 seed, which is more than there are playoff spots available, the distance from the 1 seed to the 9 seed is half of a game in the NFC.
Is that a complaint, or is
not at all?
Or is has the NFL looking at this and going, okay, we're where we wanted to be?
Not at all,
as far as parity goes.
And again, like we are still, I'm going to say relatively early. We are approaching the midway point, but relatively early in the season, and there's still a lot more that has to happen. We got a lot of injuries. Mike Evans goes down, broken collarbone. He's going to miss the majority of the rest of the season. Maybe available for the playoffs. That's for a division-leading Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But just for the funsies, they are leading that division, Lonzo, by 1 game over the Carolina Panthers right now. And the Panthers have 3 wins in a row.
By the way, that's how the NFC South always is.
Which would be fine, except for they're 5-2 and 4-3. It's not like they're 3-3 and 2-4.
They could very easily end up being like
absolutely. Hey, Chris Evans.
Wins.
Chris Evans down for the Buccaneers. That's a huge weapon off the table. The Bryce Young's out for at least a week with a high ankle sprain. We're going to get to that in a minute. That was like worst case scenario, is he will definitely miss. And who do the Panthers have this weekend? The Bills. They got Josh Allen and the Bills. Now, in fairness, the Bills are 4-2, and they lost to a couple of not great teams in the process, but they are still 4-2.
Saying there's a chance?
No, because I mean, unless Andy Dalton's going to go full Holy Ride Rifle Batman again on us, like that's not great.
He's got his guy. Leggett
sure does.
Takes off and has like 200 yards receiving.
We're going to get to that coming up here in just a minute from now, because there's a lot happening in the NFC right now. There are 1, 2, 3, 4 teams with 5 wins. There are 1, 2 teams with 4 wins, and 1, 2, 3, 4 teams with 3 wins.
See, this sounds like a fixed league. It sounds like what they're trying to do is they're trying to make it this way so that bettors don't know what to do, and so Vegas wins.
I don't know.
That's what if we're going to continue the conspiracy, might as well go there.
If I was going to lean on that, why not in the AFC? Let's be real. Like if you're talking drama, there's a lot more drama in terms of individual players and team narratives in the AFC. I got rookie Drake May out ahead of Josh Allen in the AFC East. I got the 1-6 Dolphins, the Steelers behind Aaron Rodgers. Listen, feel how you want to feel about Aaron Rodgers. He's a needle mover when it comes to the broadcast.
I don't know why you have to say that.
Because a lot of people don't like Aaron Rodgers.
I've you and a couple people on the radio are the only people I've ever met that don't like
Then
Aaron
go
Rodgers.
Meet people.
Why would I do that if they're all people like that?
Aaron Rodgers is a dude who is polar. Do we agree he's polarizing?
What has he done this season that's polarizing?
It's not about this season. It's about who he is as a guy.
I'm just curious because it's what has he done?
Right,
he's just went out and played football.
Right.
Yeah.
As a football player. But he's also a dude who is now, in fairness, he's been out of the media a lot this season. But he's been in the media a lot for the past 5 years. So, polarizing guy. The Colts behind Danny Dimes. The Colts are 6-1. They have the best record in the NFL. There's a narrative there. And oh, by the way, everybody else in that division has 4 wins or fewer right now. But the Jags are a story. The Broncos 5-2. ahead of the Chiefs and Chargers. The Chargers, by the way, ahead of the Chiefs. The Chiefs are in third place in that division despite being on a heater the last 2 weeks. There's a lot of entertainment to be had right now in the NFL. We're going to come to that because there are NFL scores in the water cooler cheat sheet. And there's also a baseball score. And there's also some college football news, which means we should do that because it's 7:06 and you have less than 54 minutes until you have to be to the office. And to kill a little time, because everybody's working for the weekend, to kill a little time, you're going to talk sports. But you don't want to sound like an idiot when you talk sports. That's why we're here to help, and that's why we do this.
Are you ready for the playbook of the peculiar, the almanac of the absurd, and the encyclopedia of the extraordinary? Well, you better be, because we're diving headfirst into the 3 top stories that will have your coworkers saying, "Down!"
No, we're not going to play the rest of the intro.
Yeah, well, it's just, I mean, you know,
is that 4 in 2 days?
For what? Oh yeah. I'm just, you understand why though you understand the off the air reasons why I'm having all these problems, but still that was one of the worst things that was unexpected
in
the history of this program. That's probably one of the worst. We'll go with flubs that I've ever. Yeah,
that one was not ideal.
I hope the boss was listening. I mean, because you know, when you make those kind of mistakes, you hope to get a talking to about it. So,
Water Cooler Cheat Sheet, top 3 sports stories you need to know before you get to the office and start talking sports this AM. Let's dive right in with item number 1. A pair of NFL games on Monday night. Is it Monday night? Is it Monday Night Footballs? Is it still Monday Night Football times 2? I'm going to go with Monday Night Footballs.
What is with the rash of these? I mean, did we have this many doubleheaders last year?
No. But I had the big complaint last night because even though I was up watching the ALCS Game 7, dude, how are we kicking off NFL games at 10 o'clock on a weeknight? You know what I mean? Like even me, who does not care about my own health and well-being and stays up way too late most nights of the week, how are we kicking off an NFL game at 10 p.m.?
But West Coast people are like, finally.
Yeah. And again, I get that. Like, that's a 7 o'clock kick West Coast, and the game was on the West Coast. So I get it. But at the same time, like, that's also not me.
Everyone in Seattle pumped because they can watch it in prime time.
I guess. I don't know, man. That was frustrating. I get it. Like 8 o'clock kicks are what? 7, 6, 5 o'clock in the afternoon in California. You're not even home from work when Monday Night Football kicks off. I get it. Monday Night Countdown happening at Monday late afternoon if you're in California A. And that is a obviously left coast team, but like woof for us. 24-9, the Detroit Lions knock off the Tampa Bay Buccaneers last night. Jared Goff, 20 of 29, 241, but it was Jahmyr Gibbs playing the hero ball. 17 totes, a $136 on the ground, and 2 tutties punched in for the Detroit running back. Tampa Bay held to just 41 rushing yards on the game last night. Rashad Wright, 10 carries, 38 yards. That's because Tampa playing from behind most of the game. They were down 7-0 in the first quarter, 14-3 at the end of the half. Had to throw the football around a little bit yesterday. Baker Mayfield, 28 of 50, 228, a touch and a pick last night. They only ran the ball 12 times, did the Buccaneers. It was the controversy of the instant replay challenge that did this late in the game. Baker Mayfield and the fellas down 21-9, ball on the Detroit side of the field. On 4th and 4, Baker would hit a pass to a crossing tight end, Cade Otton. Otton would make the catch and dive for the first down. He would be credited with the catch and the first down. Dan Campbell would call for an instant replay challenge of the catch or the spot. The catch would be upheld and the spot would be upheld, giving Tampa Bay a first down. However, after the call got made, John Hussey went back to the replay monitor, came back out onto the field and said the catch was good, but the spot was overturned short of the line to gain, and it was a turnover on downs, the ball now belonging to the Detroit Lions. A lot of people upset about that, saying, why did we review it a second time? The NFL did send out their VP of whatever department Mike Butterworth is, and he said, look, it was not a second review. We reviewed it while we were still reviewing it. We sent Hussey out there. We will send the refs out, but we'll keep looking JIC. Hussey went out, made the call. He said, but while he was making the call, we got another angle made available from the broadcast. And in that angle, we decided, oh, wait, no, he didn't get the first down. We called Hussey back over. We did not show him any more video. We just called him back over because his on-field communication device did not work. The only way we could talk to him was at the booth. So we called him back over to the monitor, put the headset on him, and said, the spot has been overturned. It is not a first down. Therefore, turnover on downs. Hussey went back out, made the second announcement. And of course, because this is what people do, it fired off a conspiracy theory that the NFL was actively helping out the Lions because those same conspiracy theorists believed that the NFL helped out the Chiefs in a win over the Lions the week before with some controversial calls. We talked a little bit about it in the last hour. We'll probably get back to it later on in the show, but we got a little bit more to get to. 27-19, the Seahawks knock off the Texans in that 10 p.m. kick last night. Sam Darnold, 17 of 31, 213, a touch, and a pick in the game for Seattle. C.J. Stroud, 23 of 49 for 229, one touch, and one pick as well. The difference, the run game. Seattle, 33 totes for $118 and 2 rushing touchdowns. Houston, 17 carries, just 56 yards, a 3.3 yard per carry average. 25 of those 56 came from C.J. Stroud on a pair of scrambles that he took off. One a 15-yarder, the other a 10-yarder, getting out of trouble. C.J. Stroud was sacked 3 times for minus 31 yards on the ground, a QBR of just 25 for C.J. Stroud last night. Seattle all over the H-Town Texans, 27-19, your final. Let's go to item number 2. Your World Series matchup is set. The Seattle Mariners won games 1 and 2 in Toronto. Toronto won games 3 and 4 in Seattle. Seattle would get game 5 back in Seattle. They would go with Toronto needing to win 2 of 2 back in the home ball club. And they did that last night. A 4-3 win over the Mariners eliminates the Mariners from the postseason and moves the Blue Jays on to the Fall Classic. Shane Bieber got the start for the Jays. 3.2, gave up 7 hits, 2 runs, including a big-time dong last night from Julio Rodriguez. Cal Raleigh would also go yad in the 5th inning off of Varland. That would make it 3-1 in favor of the Mariners after Dalton Varsho singled to center and scored George Springer in the bottom of the 1st. It was 1-1 after 1. Rodriguez homers in the 3rd to make it 2-1. Raleigh dong in the 5th to make it 3-1. Bottom 7. George Springer comes to the dish, and he goes 381 to left center to score. He and 2 others made it 4-3 in favor of the Jays. They would not relinquish the lead. We got to the top of the 9th, Seattle at the dish, a pair of strikeouts recorded by Hoffman, Julio Rodriguez, Cal Raleigh. Next up in the lineup, it felt like we were about to have an absolute iconic baseball postseason moment. Instead, Julio Rodriguez strikes out without a single pitch in the strike zone. In the AB, he would take the K and leave Cal Raleigh standing in the on-deck circle when the game came to its conclusion. Los Angeles and Toronto, your 2025 World Series. It starts up on Friday, and we will be doing quite a bit of breakdown of the Fall Classic as we move towards first pitch. Let's get to item number 3. A couple of stories from college and soon-to-be college sports. Florida State made an announcement yesterday. A statement from the school said that they will allow Mike Norvell to finish the season as the head coach, but they will do a full evaluation of the program at the conclusion of the season. Florida State opened with a 3-0 run, including a win over now number 4 Alabama. However, they have gone 0-4 since then with some bad losses, including a road loss to Stanford. I thought the loss at Pitt would be it. Then the boys went out to the left coast and lost to Stanford in a little late-night ACC action on Saturday, and I thought we might see Mike Norvell canned after that. However, Mike Norvell has a $56 million buyout, and somebody did the math. If they were to pay out Mike Norvell's coaching staff, which would likely leave with him, Florida State would have to come off of $72 million to make an in-season coaching change. Now, is there a positive to making an in-season coaching change? Sure. You tell the boys on the squad, like, we know it's not good enough. We'd like you to stay around, A. And B, you can go ahead and get the coaching search underway, right? Like, you can't. I mean, I guess you theoretically could start your coaching staff while your head coach is still there. But let's be real. If the head coach knows that you are doing a coaching search under his watch, he's going to check out and start looking for a new place to go as well. And any chance at grabbing another win or 2 down the line goes away. So $72 million out if Norvell and his staff are fired. Basically, this statement from Florida State yesterday effectively said, we don't have it right now. We don't have $72 million. Penn State has it because they got this new sponsorship with Adidas. Florida only owed Billy Napier $22 million with his staff, probably closer to 30. We don't have $72 million, so we've got to let this thing play out. Hilariously, shortly after Mike Norvell's vote of confidence from Florida State University, Hugh Freeze was asked, hey, man, would you want a vote of confidence from Auburn after you took another L? And Hugh Freeze said, yes, quote, it would be huge. That would make everyone feel a lot better for sure. I haven't talked to John. John Cohen being the AD. I'm going to say John has been so supportive ever since, obviously, my hire. They have a job to do, and certainly he has people to answer to. I know how close we are. I know I can get this fixed. Is this the first incident of a coach ever asking for a vote of confidence? Like the dreaded vote of confidence is like it's a joke in college football, right? If a coach gets the vote of confidence, you know that guy's on his way out. That guy's getting canned.
I mean, it's that way for any sport, isn't it?
Vote of confidence usually means, we're out of confidence, buddy. Get it right now or you're gone.
Is it the same for a regular job? If you get a vote of confidence in your regular job.
I got to tell you, if you've ever been called in the office and had the manager go, hey, man, listen, thanks for coming in, close the door behind you. Listen, I just want to tell you, I believe that you can do this job. That is never followed with, and you're doing a good job of it, right? I believe you can do this job means you're not currently doing the job. And this is just you know what that is? It's a polite warning. It is a warning without going, hey, dude, you suck, and we need you to not suck, so stop sucking. It is a, hey, pal, you're bleeping it up right now, and if you don't get it right, we're going to have a tougher conversation down the line. I've never heard a coach ask for the vote of confidence, buddy. And finally, remember the lawsuit we told you about last week? Jameer Brown is a wide receiver in Ohio suing the state of Ohio in order to be eligible to make NIL money. Where I went and did the research yesterday. There are only, this part, okay, it is a bit confusing. There are only 6 states right now, Ohio, Alabama, Indiana, Michigan, Mississippi, and Wyoming, are the only states where players in high school cannot make NIL money. However, there are also some states where there is no legislation or law that they can't, but it's kind of an up in the air issue with high school athletics associations run within the state. Well, yesterday, Franklin County Common Pleas Court Judge Jaiza Page issued her order, a restraining order against the OHSAA, meaning that for now, Jameer Brown and every other high school athlete in the state of Ohio can begin to sign contracts and earn NIL money across the state of Ohio. The lawsuit claimed that Jameer Brown has already missed out on more than $100,000 in potential NIL deals. This ruling says he and other high school athletes in Ohio can go ahead and start signing those NIL deals. You know who benefits the most from this? Ohio State. Ohio State. And Ohio and all these other schools, but Ohio State primarily because, A, it gives students in Ohio who might be able to go to another state and make $100,000, $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000. I got to think there's probably a lot of kids whose parents would say, oh, you can make $500,000 by going and playing football in Florida? Yeah, pack up the U-Haul. We're headed to the Sunshine State, baby. Now they got a reason to stay in Ohio. And if they've got a reason to stay in Ohio, what's that mean? Means Ryan Day's right next door. He can go knock on the door. Go, hey, you're making that much money in high school. Imagine what you can make if you come on up the road to Columbus and play college ball in Ohio. You'll triple that, right? This is great for Ohio State University. Is it great for high school football? I think yes. I think a lot of you say no. When we come back here in just a minute from now, yesterday something happened to me that I don't recall ever having happened in my broadcasting career. I had a take yesterday. I said Lenore Sellers should quit, should not play another down for South Carolina this year. And yesterday, as I went shopping, for the first time I had somebody approach me to tell me that my take was, and I quote, bull. I can't quote the second part, but you get it. I'll tell you what happened with that. I'll tell you what happened What happened to me? I'll tell you what happened with that next. Rob Lonzo, the Rob Grant Show is on the Fan Upstate. Come on, man. All right, guys, stay right there. I'll be back in just a minute. Don't go anywhere.
Okay.
If you watched the show yesterday, you saw that, which we are live streaming the show every day for all 4 hours at facebook.com/thefanupstate, the Fan Upstate on YouTube, the Fan Upstate on Twitter, the Rob Brown Show on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Twitch. If you watched the show yesterday, you knew that I was wearing my station polo. It has the Fan Upstate logo on one side. It has my name on the other side on the breast of the shirt. And I had...
He said breast!
Lonzo said that, not me. I wore the shirt yesterday, and after I wore the shirt, went to some meetings, went home, waited for the wife. The wife got home. We had to go out shopping last night. We didn't have to go. We wanted to go shopping last night. She wanted a new Halloween decoration. I wanted spicy Skittles, which are a real thing and are also a very delicious thing if you like. They got a little kick to them. So we went to...
See, now I'm worried about it. If you think they have
they got some kick.
Yeah.
I like them a lot. They got some kick. So we went to a local store around the Taylor, South Carolina area. And we were in there for 10, 15 minutes or so. And as we were making our way to the checkout line, I was approached by somebody. Now, ordinarily they would say, "Are you Rob?" But my name was literally on my shirt. And so the guy walked up and he said, "Rob Brown." And I said, "Yes." And he said, "My name is Red." And I went, "Okay, nice to meet you, man. You listen to the show?" And he said, "Yeah, I do listen to the show. And I got to tell you."
Was he a ginger?
No, he was not.
Okay.
No, he's not.
That's
but
weird.
I also, hilariously, he is now the third Red that I have met since I moved here.
We are in South Carolina. I mean, take that however you want.
Yeah, it's the third Red I've met since I moved here. One is related to the wife. One I randomly got paired with at a golf course one time, and this is the third Red that I've met. So this gentleman comes up, and by the way, it started, I won't say tense, but like he clearly was not happy with my take on Lenora Sellers yesterday. We ended on a handshake and a very positive note, but he was clearly upset. And I did ask him, "Do you mind if I talk about this and respond to you on the show tomorrow?" And he said yes. He said that's fine. So the take that I had yesterday, just a very brief setup of the take that I had yesterday was, if I was in Lenora Sellers' camp, I would tell Lenora Sellers, do not play another down for the South Carolina Gamecocks this year. Not another down. You're playing behind an offensive line that is not only bad, but is not getting better. You're playing with a run game that can't get going, largely because of the offensive line, but also because of the biggest reason to me, which is the play calling of Mike Shula right now is a joke. It's a joke. It's been bad all year, and it's not changing. I went back yesterday afternoon while I was waiting for the wife to get home so we could go shopping, and I watched a little more of that game. Specifically, the red zone possession in the, first quarter, where South Carolina tried like 3 inside veer or ISO runs and were stuffed and turned away 3 times. And a large part of that was because the offensive line was A, getting blown off the ball, and B, just whiffing on blocks at the point of attack on the goal line. Can't happen. And they just kept going back to the well. It is stubborn refusal to change. At some point, no matter how much you believe in your system, you have to go, it's not working. Even if it's just for today, it's not working. We've got to do something differently. So the play calling, a bad offensive line that is not getting better. If I'm Lenora Sellers, I'm watching my draft stock plummet right now. If I'm Lenora Sellers, I'm not playing another down. If for no other reason, risk of injury. Again, watch that game and watch as the game goes on how much longer it takes for Lenora Sellers to get up after every hit. There was a hit in the fourth quarter where he got popped after rolling out to the right. He got popped, and 2 or 3 of the offensive linemen, out of, let's be real, a sense of guilt for getting him hit again, go to like offer him a hand to pick him up, and he just lays on the ground, and then he eventually gets up without their help. You can tell that this kid, who by all accounts is a wonderful human being, was furious. You could tell. He was like, I'm over this crap. I said yesterday I wouldn't play another down. So Red came up to me yesterday at the local department store we were at and made his argument. He said the take was bad, Rob Brown. He said it's a bad take. He said, number one, we are rushing too quickly to tell kids to quit when things get tough. And I said, hang on. I am not telling kids to quit when things get tough. I am saying that special circumstances require special actions. This is not a guy playing football for the University of West Florida Argonauts, go Argos. This is not that. This is a potential number 1 overall draft pick. This is a kid who has the potential for generational life-changing wealth. If this kid is drafted number 1 overall, even if he only plays a rookie contract, this kid's kids and grandkids and great-grandkids would not have to want for anything. And I'll tell you right now, and I said this to Red, there's a lot of decisions in my life that I'm standing on principle with this, and there's a lot of potential that could be added to the mix where I would have to question that principle. I'm just being honest about it. I despise the Live Tour. I despise the ever-increasing reach and grasp of Saudi Arabia on American professional sports. But I've also said 100 times, if the Live Tour called me today and offered me $5 million a year to be their number 1 play-by-play guy, I would have to take it. Would I despise it? Yes. Would it make me feel dirty and gross on the inside? Yes. You know what else it would do? It makes sure my nephew's college was paid for and he didn't have to worry about it. It would allow me to pay off my mom's house and my little brother's house. It would allow me to pay off my little brother's law school debt. It would allow me to take my wife and say, hey, you don't have to work anymore. We're set. We're good. We got retirement money now. We can go travel whenever we want to. When the golf's in the off season, we're going to live on a cruise ship. I would have to probably compromise that principle in order to make sure that myself and the people around me are set up for life. And I would like to think I would take a lot of that money and I would donate it to LGBTQ charities. I would donate a lot of it to human rights charities. I would like to think that it was when I was done working for Saudi Arabia, I would turn around and go, yeah, I'm a hypocrite, guys, because I took their money, but also we shouldn't allow Saudi Arabia to have this much influence on American sports, even though I did it. But my nephew's college is paid for, and my mom has a house paid for, et cetera, et cetera. I would love to be able to do that. But the point is, special circumstances require special action. And Lenoris is a very special circumstance. There are not a lot of guys that are, at least he was 6 weeks ago, either consensus or very close to consensus, number 1 overall pick in next year's NFL draft. He said, number 2, Rob, do you not think that the correct way for Lenoris to handle this is not to quit on the team, but is instead to take on an even more increased role of leadership, to go to Shane Beamer and say, Coach, this offense isn't working, to go to Mike Shula and say, Mike, this offense isn't working. Here's what I think would be better for us. To go to the offensive line and say, guys, what do we need to do? What can I do? What can we do to help you get better? Sean Elliott, how can I work with the offensive line to get you guys where we need to be? Rasul Faison, what can I be doing as a quarterback to take the pressure off so you can run a little bit more freely? Don't you think that he could show more to an NFL franchise by taking over as the genuine outspoken leader of this team and help them get to where they need to be? And my thought was, I don't hate that point. I don't hate that point at all. I get that point. But at the same time, is that going to happen between now and Alabama? And then Ole Miss, and then Texas A&M, and then Clemson, who, yes, Clemson's a disappointment too. But you also know Clemson's going to play their best game against South Carolina. And if they play their best game against South Carolina, and if they do indeed have 2 or 3 NFL draft picks in the front 7, who suffers the most there? Lenoris Sellers. So if the leadership of Lenoris Sellers hasn't had an impact through 7 games, what makes you think it's going to have an impact through 5 more, right? We're more than halfway done. If it hasn't had an impact through 7 games, how is 5 more going to suddenly make him the shining example of a guy who can go into the locker room, put his foot in the sand, and have this team change who it is, have the coaching staff change who they are? I can't imagine that that's going to be the case. If that is what it takes, how has it not happened now? Would it make him more attractive? You're damn right it would.
Did Red say bless your heart?
No, I really wish he would have. That would have made a lot better. And the last thing he said was, Rob Brown, you know that this guy is loyal to this program. And I said, that's great, Red. I get it. I'm loyal to a fault as well. I am. I am loyal to this radio station. I am loyal to this show. But if tomorrow somebody calls and offers me $1 million a year to go do the show in a different city, I'm gone, dude. I love Lonzo, Diesel, Cole like brothers. I've never been in a place where I genuinely loved all the people I share airwaves with. I love my bosses, all of them. I like everyone in this building. There's no one here that I have a problem with. But if somebody called me tomorrow and offered me $1 million a year in Albuquerque, New Mexico, even Albuquerque, I got to go. That's life-changing. I get he's loyal to the program, but at some point, you got to go. This loyalty is not a two-way street, at least not to the way that I could be benefiting elsewhere. Why is that bad? Why is that bad? And the last thing Red said, and the one thing that made me go, I fundamentally disagree with you on this is, doesn't now that the heat is on, now that Shane Beamer's snapping in press conferences, now that the heat is truly on, isn't this the mark where Mike Shula's got to go, I better change or my job is on the line? Buddy, that was last week. That was going into a game at 3-3 with losses to Mizzou and Vandy. That was last week, not this week. Do you think he's going to suddenly change, especially going up against Alabama where he used to work? Do you think he's going to suddenly go, yeah, it turns out everything I did sucked, and now I'm going to do it a totally different way? I have zero reason to believe that would happen. So that's what I got confronted on yesterday. How dare you? Leadership, execution, and Mike Shula has to see the light now, right? Leadership, great point. But it hasn't impacted 7 Y5. Execution, they're not executing anything. And Mike Shula, again, 7 weeks. You think now, after a 3-4 record, now he's going to go, oh, yeah, no, turns out everybody's right. I should do it differently. I got nothing. Loyalty's a two-way street. It's only going one way right now. That's why Lenore should walk away. But I did enjoy the conversation, Red, and I'm glad we had it. I hope to bump into you again. When we come back, got a text on the text line about Garrett Riley and South Carolina that I want to address. That's next on the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate. There it is. I'm sorry. I got to pop off an email, and I don't want you guys to have to just stare at the side of my head. Be right back. Kane, I am well-rounded, not just in shape, but in philosophy. The Rob Brown Show is on your radio. It is the Fan of State. Rob Brown, the Great Malonzo, and you. The phone line is open, 844-326-3663. That is also the number to the Hub City Spartanburger text line. I got a text earlier in the show that I wanted to address. It comes from Bo from Greer. He said, Rob, do you think if both Clemson and South Carolina fired their offensive coordinators, would Garrett Riley be a good hire for South Carolina? It's no secret he hasn't had full control of the Clemson offense. I would like to see what he could do without the handcuffs. Bo, I will start with this. You and I both share the same theory. The theory is, and this seems to be a theory that is relatively polarizing amongst the Clemson faithful. My theory is absolutely that. When Dabo said Garrett Riley is not coming to Clemson to run the Garrett Riley offense, Garrett Riley is coming to Clemson to run the Clemson offense. Paraphrasing, but pretty close. I take Dabo at his word. I think that is exactly what has happened. And here's why I mean that. When Garrett Riley was at TCU, and I went and I because Bo texted me this about 30 minutes ago, and I actually wanted to think about this a little bit because I said yesterday at the end of the show, I'm fantasy booking. That's a term we in the wrestling community like to use. It's where we like come up with our own wrestling storylines. I'm fantasy booking this. But here's my fantasy booking. At the end of the year, Dabo Swinney needs a sacrificial lamb. Much like Penn State, this is a team that a lot of people, myself included, thought had the talent and the coaching to compete for a national championship this year. Instead, this team is 3-4, and with 5 games remaining, must win 3 of them just to make a bowl game. So, it is not unfair to say this is a disappointing year for the Clemson Tigers. In fact, I would make the argument that the Clemson Tigers are the most disappointing team in college football this year. Yes, even more so than Penn State. Because while I did think Penn State was going to win the Big Ten and compete for a title this year, the overwhelming majority of people, of whom I split from, said, it's James Franklin, dog. Like, no, he'll get close, but he's never going to win the games that he needs to win to get it done. Clemson, on the flip side, was a consensus conference champion pick this year. I do not know of anyone who picked anyone but Clemson to win the title, so it is disappointing. So I wanted to address this from a perspective that was more than just fantasy booking for the lulz. The fantasy booking for the lulz was Dabo Swinney gets to the end of the year. They're a disappointing team. He needs a sacrificial lamb. Garrett Riley gets blamed for the Clemson offense not being excellent. Garrett Riley is released by Clemson, and Shane Beamer fires Mike Shula and immediately hires Garrett Riley. I said that yesterday at the end of the show from a stance of, wouldn't it be funny? I say it now from a standpoint of, yeah, I actually could see that happening. And not only could I see it happening, but I actually think it would be excellent for South Carolina, and here's why. When Garrett Riley was at TCU, in 2022, TCU led the FBS with 22 plays from scrimmage of 50 or more yards. They were also tied for or led the nation, tied for in the nation of touchdowns of at least 50 yards. And on top of that, in 2021, TCU finished 5-7 with the 65th ranked scoring offense. In 2022, TCU finished the season with a 9th ranked scoring offense, scoring 38.8 points per game. Under Riley, TCU averaged 270 passing yards per game and averaged right at 200 rushing yards per game. That's that air, ground, What was the term they used? The turf raid, the turf raid offense, right? A very balanced offense. But if you watch TCU's offense, what you will see is that their offense was based in spread principles, which is not shocking. Garrett Riley played quarterback for Mike Leach, the Pirate King. Mike Leach was the air raid guy. Like, we're going to go throw for 500 yards or we're going to lose, Mike Leach. So Garrett Riley worked a lot of that spread principle into his offense, but he utilized the spread to open up the run in it. He was going to get you on the heels and dropping 6 or 7, and then he was going to run the ball out of the spread, and it worked a lot. Obviously, he developed Max Duggan, a Heisman finalist. He won the Davey O'Brien as the nation's top quarterback. He was the Big 12 Offensive Player of the Year. Just about every metric, including the EPA, the SP+, he was top 15 in every one of them. Now, you can make the argument that TCU played in a lesser conference at the time, played lesser opponents at the time, and I don't disagree with any of that. But I would also point out that when Garrett Riley got there, TCU was also playing with lesser talent on their team than Clemson has on theirs. And so I would ask the question, do you think that Garrett Riley went from a guy at TCU who had more 50-yard touchdowns than anybody in the country, that had more 50-yard chunk explosive plays than anybody in the country, that produced a top 10 scoring offense every year he was there, that scored roughly 40 points per game every year he was there, that generated a Heisman Trophy finalist at TCU, that generated a Davey O'Brien Award winner at TCU, that had 270 passing and 200 rushing yards in a season on average in that offense? Do you think that a guy who had in every advanced metric, and if you're not a nerd and don't care about the numbers, that's fine, but statistics show you something, that not everything, but something. Do you think that a guy that put that resume together suddenly got to Clemson and just lost that ability, and more importantly, didn't bring the same playbook with him? You think he showed up to Clemson and didn't bring the same playbook? That's the reason that I believe that Garrett Riley has been handcuffed by Dabo Swinney. So if that is the case, then it would also make sense that if Dabo wanted to have a sacrificial lamb at the end of the year, and I don't know that that will be the case or not, but obviously, and I think you heard it in that press conference answer that I played for you yesterday. If you missed it, I may play it again later on in the show. But if you for a second believe that Garrett Riley left all of that at TCU, didn't bring it to Clemson, and not this offense, which looks remarkably similar to Clemson every year since Tony Elliott was there, I don't know what to tell you. I disagree with you. I think he's been handcuffed. So if we get to the end of the year, and it is a wildly disappointing year, it already is, but if it gets more disappointing, and it might, and Clemson requires a sacrificial lamb so that they can take the pressure off of Dabo Swinney, Garrett Riley seems like he would be the candidate. Because why not? You already aren't, in my opinion, trusting him to actually be the offensive coordinator. So if you let the guy go and your plan is to keep running the Clemson offense, losing Garrett Riley doesn't hurt you any. In fact, it may even help you from the standpoint of, A, you can go get somebody that, a new offensive coordinator, and a successful one, but like runs a more Clemson style offense that Dabo Swinney wants. And you can, if you're Dabo, you can go to the mic and say, hey, look, we just fired a wildly sought after offensive coordinator. That's how much we want things to be different here. And just blame him and take the blame off yourself. Well, here's the thing. Go back and watch that TCU team, specifically the year that they went to the college football playoffs and the college football final against Georgia, and go watch that offense and tell me that the way that offense runs, wide open with a lot of quarterback movement, a lot of running out of the pass game, a lot of running out of the spread, a lot of spreading the ball around, a lot of taking advantage of deep routes and chunk plays. Tell me that offense would not be perfect for South Carolina right now. What quarterback in college football, after what we saw last year, maybe not right now, but what quarterback in college football would you run ahead of Lenore Sellers running the Garrett Riley TCU offense from 2022 and 23? There's not one. Dante Moore, maybe. Like, maybe. Dylan Raiola, like, maybe. Nobody more than Lenore Sellers. And if you are the type of offense that it's going to generate 22-plus plays of 50-plus yards, what wide receiver do you want more than Nick Harbor? I mean, you can make the argument it's Ryan Williams or it's Jeremiah Smith. Neither one of those guys is as fast as Nick Harbor. They're better receivers. They got better hands. But if I'm looking for a guy to get down the field and throw some 50-yard 9 routes to, I want the fastest guy I can get, and I'll work on his hands later, Nick Harbor. If I'm going to have a run game that is based on the spread aerial attack, that is what Utah State did for Rasul Faison that got him to be such a sought-after player in the portal. Faison at Utah State was running out of a lot less compact sets than he's running against South Carolina. And if I have a bad offensive line, and if there is one 5-year criticism of Shane Beamer, it is the fact that the offensive line has been largely bad the entire time. How many times have I said, if you have a bad offensive line that is just getting whipped at the point of attack, how do you deal with that? You move the offensive line. You move protection. You don't just have them set back into pass pro. You have them block right, block left. You make the defensive line not be able to just fire off the football. Firing off the football is why South Carolina can't score inside the 5-10-yard line, because they're getting beat at the line of scrimmage with defensive lines firing off. How do you stop that? You have your defensive line move to the right, move to the left. Instead of just kicking back into pass pro and absorbing the pass rush and then losing it, firing off the football and trying to win the point of attack when they can't do it, you use offensive line motion. You utilize pulls. You utilize protection rolling left, rolling right with the quarterback rolling behind the line instead of on his own. You do all of that. Otherwise, as Cold Take Jim just pointed out, you end up with Joe Burrow, who's just hurt every year because he's playing behind a paper-thin offensive line that doesn't move. That's what you end up with. Everything that I have said Mike Shula needs to do if you want this South Carolina offense to find anything in the final 5 games of the season, if you want them to find anything in the last 6 weeks of football, Shula needs to run the offense Garrett Riley ran at TCU. So it has gone from a joke of wouldn't it be funny if, to it is literally probably the best possible outcome for South Carolina. Is Clemson fires Garrett Riley because the Clemson fans, or at least a large enough percentage of them, blame the stall out on him, when I do believe that it is a handcuffed Garrett Riley by Dabo Swinney. My thought would be, if Clemson needs a sacrificial lamb, and if that sacrificial lamb is Garrett Riley, South Carolina, I mean, the second that push notification comes across this offseason, that Clemson has relieved offensive coordinator Garrett Riley of his duties, Shane Beamer better say, Mike, appreciate you, dog, but this didn't work out. And before he even gets, in fact, I would do it the other way around. Before I called Mike Shula to let him know he's out, I'd be on the horn with Garrett Riley. Hey, brother, we got an office. You don't even have to move that far. You got to move 2.5 hours, man. U-Haul's on its way. Just go ahead and throw your, in fact, I'll send the boys over to move for you. Just throw your stuff in the back of the U-Haul. We'll get you set up here in Columbia. You take over. And then I'm calling Lenore Sellers and going, hey, bro, listen, I know last year wasn't what you wanted. I know last year wasn't what we wanted it to be. I know that last year hurt you, physically and metaphorically speaking. But we got you a guy. Garrett Riley's coming to run this thing next year. Why don't you run it back with us one more time? Why don't you run us back? Because right now you're the 4th or 5th quarterback off the board at the best. But I believe under Garrett Riley, we can get you back to being the consensus number 1 overall pick. And then that 50, and at that point, probably $52, $54 million fully guaranteed contract, it's yours. Run it back with us for one more year under a competent offensive coordinator who recognizes the talent we have and whose scheme fits it. Bo, I don't think your take is out of control. In fact, I think Clemson firing Garrett Riley, South Carolina firing Shula, and South Carolina hiring Garrett Riley, I think Garrett, and on top of that, Garrett Riley's got motivation to get some revenge. I think it's the best possible outcome for South Carolina, to be honest with you. Key said on the chat, clearly we don't have an OC smart enough to do what needs to be done. I hope the students do protest today. I got to tell you, man, I've seen a lot of flyers around the area that have said that they want that to happen. We'll see if it happens in Columbia. All right, we'll talk some baseball and pro football in the next hour. Before we get there, now it's time. Speaking of pros, Lonzo Sports Flash.
The World Series is set with the Toronto Blue Jays claiming the American League crown with a 4-3 win over Seattle in Game 7 and booking a ticket to square off with the National League champion Los Angeles Dodgers. The Mariners trailed 3-1 in the 7th inning when George Springer launched a 3-run shot to take the lead. The Fall Classic starts Friday night. Detroit Lions hammered Tampa Bay 24-9 for their 5th win of the season. Jared Goff went 20 of 29 for 241 yards with 1 touchdown and 1 pick, but it was Jahmyr Gibbs' 136 yards and 2 touchdowns that made the difference. Seattle took a 27-19 victory over Houston on the back of Sam Darnold's 17 of 31 213-yard night. That included 1 touchdown and 1 pick. The Seahawks held Houston to just 56 rushing yards, and C.J. Stroud to 23 of 49 for 229 yards, 1 touchdown and 1 pick, and Seattle won the game.
Yeah, baby. I like it like that. I like it like that. I like it like that.
Sup, bruh?
The Rob Brown Show back on your radio. It's the Fan Upstate, y'all. Rob Brown, the Great One, Lonzo, and you be a part of the radio program. The phone line open 844-326-3663, 844-FAN if you want to get at us in that direction. You can text us on the radio show. The text line is the same number. The Hub City Spartanburger text line is 844-326-3663. Tweet me at the Rob Brown. Tweet Lonzo at Lonzo Onward. Tweet everybody up in here at the Fan Upstate. If you'd like to come at us in that direction, you're welcome to do it. And of course, if you've got something more long format, rob.brown at thefanupstate.com. It is 8 o'clock in the morning, which is usually where we do the audio blitz. And we will here, although I'm going to do it a little differently today. I got a couple of sounds for you. But I want to start with this one. I've used the phrase, how can you not be romantic about baseball, many times on this show. And I recognize that that phrase holds a little more relevance to those of us that grew up loving baseball. I grew up loving baseball. When I was a Ute, I would regularly find myself watching baseball with my granddad and my old man, right? Like every Sunday after church, we'd go to Grandpa's house. If it was baseball season and it was a Sunday afternoon game, baseball was on. That's what we did with Grandpa. Me, the three Roberts sat around, watched baseball, sat around and watched golf if that was on.
What are you? You're three different names, though, right?
No, we were all Robert.
No, I know, but
yeah.
I mean,
oh yeah. Grandpa was Big Bob. My dad was Bob, and I was Robert because my mom hated Rob. There were other nicknames, but I'm not going to say them on the air because you people would immediately only call me that forever, and I'm not going to do that to myself. And not a word out of you, sir. Not a word out of you. So, grew up loving baseball.
I would never do that. You'd start calling me by my first name.
That is also correct.
I cannot abide that.
That is also correct. The dude abides. So, grew up loving baseball. Obviously, grew up playing baseball. I think most of us start with soccer and t-ball, and then you kind of pick your path after that. I played baseball all the way up through high school. I love the sport of baseball. And I don't think that there is much better on planet Earth than postseason baseball. It is it is as tense as it gets. Baseball is interesting in that it is the ultimate combination of individual competition and team competition, right? Like you got to have the best baseball team, but at the same time, everything that happens on a baseball field breaks down to one guy doing his job better than another guy does his job. It is a pitcher having to throw a better pitch than the batter is capable of hitting. It is the chess matchup between the two. It is the catcher making sure that he is setting up the pitcher to do so. And if the pitcher makes a mistake, being there to cover. It is the batter being able to hit the ball to a spot on the field that gives them the opportunity to get where they need to be on the diamond to set up the next guy. It's the next guy utilizing his at-bat, not for personal glory, but to advance the runner into scoring position. And then the next guy after him, not to go for personal glory, but to score that runner for the betterment of the team. I love the game of baseball, and I do not think that there is a postseason game that is better than baseball. I have said for many years, I think the absolute best postseason in American sports is college baseball. I think it is the best because of the way that the format is, because of the parity and talent from the highest levels to the lowest. Like, I think postseason college baseball is the best, but MLB baseball is right there with it. So, with that being said, I love alternate broadcast. Now, this was not available as a broadcast, but I want you to know that if it was, I'd pay for it. If this was available as something that I could pay money for, a monthly subscription, and I could hear a baseball game, just stadium noise. No announcements from, no play-by-play guy, no color guy, no rules analyst, no pitcher or catcher from a previous bygone era, just the sounds of the, I know what's going on, and I know why it's happening. Just give me stadium broadcast. Seventh inning, bottom of the seventh, George Springer makes his way to the dish. The Toronto Blue Jays are down 3-1. 2 on. Here comes George Springer, one of the best postseason hitters of all time. I mean, if that isn't just the prettiest sound, I don't know what is. You've got the announcement of George Springer coming to the dish. You've got the rise in the crowd as they recognize this. Like, this dude has been a postseason hero in days gone by. Remember the Astros run? George Springer was a huge part of the Astros dynasty that they built. George Springer is a dude that when he comes to the dish in a spot like that, I mean, anything can happen. And you heard the announcement. You heard the crowd react to it. You heard the first pitch hit the mitt of George Springer taking an outside ball. You heard the crowd start to recognize they're afraid to pitch to him in this spot with 2 on. Then the crack of the bat and the crowd reacting as a baseball traveled 314 feet out of the field of play, and George Springer, in a swing of the bat, took a Toronto Blue Jay team that was feeling more and more and more and more anxious and apprehensive. We have got, effectively at that point, we've got 7 outs to work with. And if we can't come up with at least 2 runs and 7 outs, our season ends. And here comes George Springer with 7 outs left to play at a point in time where everything had been coming up Mariners at that point. The crack of the bat, the crowd recognizing that thing's got some air under it, there's potential, and then the absolute riot when that thing lands about 9 rows deep. And the Toronto fans went from, 7 outs down 2 to, hell yeah, 6 outs for Seattle, and we're up 1. And they have not been able to hit the ball since Cal Raleigh went yard to make it 3-1. I am doing this segment just strictly out of romance about the game, man. I was, last night, there were 4 or 5 of us that were watching that game on a Discord chat. Just me and some of the boys that love baseball. We all fired up our Discord. We were all on a voice chat. We synced up our TVs. We're all watching the game. I got a guy up in Cleveland watching with us, a guy down in Destin watching with us, a guy down in Tampa watching with us, and me in Greenville, South Carolina. All from different walks of life, all different baseball team fans. My guy down in Tampa, big Rays guy. My guy up in Cleveland is, I believe he's a big New York fan. Me, a big Braves fan. My guy down in Destin, a big Cubs fan. And the thing is, 0 Mariners fans. I was pulling for Seattle this postseason because I will always pull for the plucky little underdog, and the Mariners are still the only team to never go to a World Series. I was pulling for Seattle. And on top of that, my love of Ken Griffey Jr. is always going to leave a little soft spot for the Mariners in my heart. Was pulling for the Mariners, but in that moment, I was just a baseball fan. And there were 4 of us on this Discord chat. And when that ball left the yad, it was just 4 dudes that all became elementary schoolers who love the game again. All of us. Oh, man. Just 4 dudes in a Discord chat watching from 4 very different places, from 4 backgrounds, 4 walks of life, 4 different baseball fandoms represented. And in that moment, every one of us was just a baseball fan, not a Jays fan, not a Mariners fan, a Braves fan, a Cubs fan, a Yankees fan, a Mets fan, whatever. Every one of us was just a fan of what a freaking moment. It is baseball and only baseball that in a postseason Game 7, late in the game, can give you that moment. And more importantly, that moment's elation. You can hear it from the crowd. But more than just that moment is what that moment sets up after that, right? More than just that moment is that after that moment, the rest of that game became tense. Isn't the word. It is whatever is more than tense. That's what the rest, every pitch, the rest of that game, because you get that reminder that in the game of baseball, the entire script can be flipped in one swing of the bat, right? Like in football, Yeah, I mean, you might have a big play on the opening play of a drive, but in football, like, scores come after drives, right? Like, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 plays before a touchdown can flip a game on its head. In baseball, it's a pitch. Just a pitch can do it. A pitch, a swing, a hit can change the game. And you got reminded of that because it happened. And then you turned around and the very next inning, you're like, okay, one Julio Rodriguez swing, one Cal Raleigh swing, one swing of the bat, and Seattle can take this lead right back. It's hard not to get romantic about it, man. Like, it's just every now and then, and postseason baseball specifically, every now and then I get reminded of why. Yeah, I'm a basketball lover. Obviously love and study the game of football. But at its core, man, I genuinely don't believe that there is anything like baseball. And I genuinely don't believe there is anything like postseason baseball. All right, now, let me give you one or two more clips. I'll start with this one. Matt Rule was on Pat McAfee's show earlier this week. And Matt Rule got asked, how are you going to handle the pressure of being the guy whose name is at the top of the list for the Penn State job? Now, Matt Rule may have bumped his name down that list a little bit because Nebraska, a team that I think we were all ready to believe in Matt Rule's third year at the helm, went out and lost a real dumb game this weekend. But his name is still at the top of the list, or at least is floated around by a lot of people as the speculative name at the top of the list. McAfee asked him about that.
With my team, it's just unbridled honesty. Tell them the truth. Tell them exactly the truth. Don't BS them because they'll know. And secondly, just out there, this is it. This is part of it. It's better than when I was in Carolina and they were chanting to fire me, right? So it's better than being on every hot seat list. So having other schools maybe be interested in you is pretty cool. But I don't do that during the season. I don't mess around with that. I don't play that. And at the same time, this is not a jumping off job. This is a destination job. This is one of the greatest places in the world. This is a town of 300,000 people. I can do whatever I want here. I have a great young team, the youngest team in the Big Ten. Think about how good we'll be next year. Now, I'm not thinking about next year, but where we are right now, like we're learning. Think about where we're going to go with Dylan and all these guys. I refuse to be distracted. At the same time, that's your alma mater. You have to show it love and respect. I love Pat Crafter. They'll find the right coach for them, whoever that is. But this is a destination job that should be a national bully, that should be a beast. And I think we're making our way to doing it. 3 places I've been, not Carolina, but the 2 colleges now here. We've spent a couple of years to build the culture up and get the football right. And then I've always kind of left afterwards. So that's why for me, I'm going all in on this place. We can make this whatever we want.
So Matt Rule says, I'm in a town of 300,000 people. I can do whatever I want. And this place should be a powerhouse. It should be a beast. It should be a bully. We got a young team around Dylan Raiola. Imagine what we can do moving forward. It's a destination job. They'll get the guy they want, but I'm not thinking about it. I'm not talking about it. I'm not in on it. Like, this is where I want to be. Here's the question. You believe him? Do we believe him? Like, if Penn State calls and goes, hey, we had our Board of Regents meeting, and Matt Rule, we've decided that you're the guy. We are willing to pay you $20 million more than Nebraska is willing to pay you to stay there. Do we believe him? Does he use this as leverage to get a raise out of Nebraska? Would Nebraska be willing to meet that raise? It is year 3, and while Nebraska isn't a powerhouse, they're as good as they've been in a long time, but they are still losing dumb games. Is this a spot where you believe Matt Rule? Or is Penn State even going to be interested after this weekend?
I think coaches are like politicians. I mean, how many coaches will, I'm not entertaining that at all. I will be here next year, and then the next day they're signing a contract somewhere else. I mean, when they say this kind of stuff, I hope he's telling the truth, but I don't believe it.
I'm kind of in the same spot. Now, I will say this, and the reason I bring this up is a conversation that we had earlier in the week. Curt Cignetti last week signs an 8-year, $96 million deal to stay the head coach of the Indiana Hoosiers. The Hoosiers are not a blue blood program that's rolling around in money. $96 million this is a program defining contract, because if they don't get it right, and if Curt Cignetti is a 2-year wonder, and this team goes back to being Indiana over the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, they are paying Georgia, Ohio State, Alabama money out of Indiana. They won't be able to do anything. I look at Florida State. Now, Florida State is a blue blood program historically, but I talked about the buyout for Mike Norvell, $56 million, higher than James Franklin's buyout at Penn State. And considering the belief is that Norvell would see his staff leave with him, Florida State's on the hook for as much as $72 million to fire Mike Norvell. There's a reason that yesterday's announcement from Florida State was a athletic department statement and not an announcement they had fired Mike Norvell. And I don't think it's because they aren't ready to move on from Mike Norvell. As much as the press release said, you know, we are committed to giving Mike Norvell everything he needs to get the program back on track. I don't think that they want to keep Mike Norvell. Here's the problem for Florida State. When Jimbo Fisher left, and they had paid Jimbo Fisher so much money, the next couple of hirings had to be budget hirings. Willie Taggart, they could say all that they wanted. That Willie Taggart, who, you know, I remember because I was covering Florida State at the time. I remember when Willie Taggart got hired, one of the Riley Cooper's Tim Tebow roommate stories, you know, those stories that they repeat every single time that team's on TV, right? One of the stories that went out there was, oh, this guy's been a fan of Florida State since he was a kid. And it was like every week, 3 or 4 times, they showed a picture of Willie Taggart as a kid wearing FSU gear. Oh, it's our dream job. Here's the reality. They hired Willie Taggart because he was a budget hire, because they couldn't, but they didn't have to give $80 million like they did to Jimbo Fisher to get him. And then when Willie Taggart didn't work out at Florida State, they moved on to Mike Norvell. Mike Norvell was a budget hire for them. They got him out of Memphis. Did they believe maybe he's that guy? Memphis loved him, sure, but he was a hire. He was a value hire. Was a budget hire. But because they put such a big buyout for a small year-to-year salary, they can't do anything with that. So my question mark is, what do bidding wars in college football look like now, right? Because I'm with Lonzo. Yeah, I'm not interested. I'm in the place I want to be. Yeah, every coach is going to say that. No coach is going to be like, yeah, I really like it here, but I'm absolutely interested in moving somewhere else. Like even coaches at small schools don't say that. So what does a bidding war between Nebraska and Penn State look like if Penn State really does want Matt Rule? This is very intriguing to me. All right, let's take a break. We'll come back after this. Got a few more college football stories. Got to get some pro talk and some baseball in here as well on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. All right, guys, stay right there. We'll be back in just a minute. Don't go anywhere. Spike texted the show and said, I would love to hear a coach say, oh, yeah, if Penn State calls, I'm off like a prom dress. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, man. Like, no coach at any level is going to say, yeah, I'm definitely interested in this other job. We all know that they are and would be. But
look how good I am. Listen, I'm one of the best coaches out there. I'm on the market.
Yeah.
So if someone wants to come along and take me, I mean, I'm going to stay here until
something better comes along.
Yeah. I mean,
for sure. Listen, I have
that kind of coach does not get a chance to coach anymore.
I have been, and I've told this story before. I've been honest about kind of where I am in my career. When I got hired here, the boss was like, look, we want somebody who's going to be here for a long time. Like, are you gonna monkey branch us? Are you gonna come here, work a couple of years, couple of months, and then start actively looking for a bigger job or a job somewhere else? And I told him, and I was very honest. Look, man, like, I want this job. I'm coming there to fully commit, but I'm not going to say I'm not going to leave, but I'm not going to leave unless I can slide an offer across the table at you that you go, yeah, dude, nice job, congrats, go get it. Like, come back and visit us, right? I don't think I wouldn't have a problem. I wouldn't have a problem with a coach saying that. But the reality of the situation is, like, a fan base isn't going to feel that way, right? If they hired Matt Rule at Nebraska and they said, Matt, like, we want our guy long term. We want a guy who's going to be here, who's going to build us into something special, and it's going to stick around to keep us there. And he went, yeah, no, I'm in. And I definitely want to be that guy for you guys. But if Penn State calls, right? If Alabama calls, I got to go. No coach is going to say that. But that kind of, to me, like, this is why I have said in years gone by, I am very intrigued by, I am very interested by the business of sport. And one of those angles is, especially now, how schools interact with their head coaches. Because, again, we've seen some schools that maybe made it. Florida. Billy Napier was, as much as they were excited about him after his time at Louisiana, where it looked like this guy had figured out a way, a system, a set of protocols at Louisiana that he was ready to jump up to the next level. But at the same time, he was still a bit of a budget hire for Florida, right? Like, they didn't go step up to pay somebody Nick Saban, James Franklin money at the time. And they structured that contract in a way that when it came time to fire him last weekend, they were out $22 million. Florida State's going to be out north of $70 million if they fired Mike Norvell at the same time. Penn State's out 49 just for the buyout to Franklin. Forget any assistant coaches that they have to let go as well. So now, with the Kurt Signetti deal, with at least a few schools that are ready to make a coaching change, but genuinely just don't have the money to do it. What happens moving forward? Like, if I'm in India, like if I'm Nebraska, Nebraska's not a poor school by any stretch of the imagination, but it's been a long time since they've been relevant in football, which means they don't have the booster support and the NIL support like a lot of other top flight schools. So getting Matt Rule was to some degree a coup for Nebraska. But if theoretically, this obviously doesn't happen again with Nebraska's loss last weekend, but if Nebraska wins that game and Nebraska's 6-1 and Nebraska's a top 15, top 10 team in the country, and Penn State is very interested in Matt Rule, who played his ball at Happy Valley. If they're very interested, is there a number where a big school like Nebraska says, yeah, man, like we're not going to pay you that. And it's not that we don't want you. We absolutely want you, but we can't put our asses on the line if this doesn't work out. Again, I go back to Mike Norvell. Mike Norvell was a budget hire at Florida State. So why are they on the hook for $72 million if they were to fire Mike Norvell? The answer is because after the 2023 season, Florida State goes undefeated in the regular season. Florida State beats every rival. Florida State wins the ACC title game. Yes, they become the only undefeated school to ever be left out of any format of the playoffs. But the thought is, had Jordan Travis not gotten hurt, they would have gone to the college football playoffs, and a lot of people believe they would have been a favorite to win the college football playoff that year. Well, Alabama was looking for a new head coach. Nick Saban stepped away that same offseason. And so Florida State, knowing that Alabama, who does have, it feels like, the infinite money glitch turned on, Alabama was interested in Mike Norvell. And Alabama, it felt like, was ready to throw the Brinks truck at Florida State head coach Mike Norvell. So what did Florida State do? Florida State gave him an Alabama contract. He had a good year in Tallahassee. But because of the fact that a school with an endless treasury was interested in him, Florida State gave him the contract of a school that has the endless treasury, but without the financial resources that Alabama has at their disposal. So Florida State gives Mike Norvell this contract, and it turns out the 2023 season was a mirage. It was the exception to the rule. It was not the rule. So Florida State backs the Brinks up to Mike Norvell, including upping his buyout of $256 million for this year. Alabama says, yeah, we're not going to put a number on the table that is going to be so high above that he still has to say yes. And Mike Norvell says, all right, man, Brinks Truck is backed up. I've had some success here. I'm gonna stick it out and stay in Tallahassee. Well, here we are a couple of years later, a 2-10 season later. Florida State well on their way to a 3-9 season. They may not win another game. They just lost to Stanford. They may not win another game. And the situation it created for Florida State is they can't fire Mike Norvell. They have to, at the very least, wait until the season ends. That buyout goes down a little bit, but even still, they are likely to be on the hook for $50 million plus if they fire Mike Norvell at the end of the season. That buyout's going to go down from 56 to, I don't know what the exact number is, probably 40 something. You buy out the coaches as well, you're looking at north of $50 million. So my question is, if we have another situation, let's make up a hypothetical situation around Matt Rule. If Matt Rule right now at Nebraska was, instead of where he is, if they were 5-1 and they were a top 10 team and they were much like Indiana is in the driver's seat for the conference, if it felt like Nebraska truly had arrived and was back, instead of 5-2, they're 6-1. Instead of a loss to Michigan and Minnesota, they win. Let's say they lose to Michigan 30-27 and they beat Minnesota instead of the other way around, and it's 24-6 Nebraska. At that point, they're 6-1. They're probably a top 10 team. They're sitting in third place in the Big Ten and just waiting for Indiana or Ohio State to lose to take their spot. If Penn State comes calling, would Nebraska look at Matt Rule the way that Florida State is now looking at Mike Norvell and going, this is a cautionary tale now, right? Like if we give him a Penn State contract like Indiana just gave Kurt Signetti, if we give him an Indiana contract I guess it is, but an Ohio State contract, if it turns out that it's not Matt Rule, it's Dylan Raiola, and Raiola leaves or gets hurt and the team tanks and they go 2-10 or 3-9 and the buyout's that high, we're bleeped, man. Like, we can't do anything at that point. Is this going to change the way that negotiations like this take place? Coaches aren't going to want to take decreased buyouts. That's their safety pillow. They're not going to want to take decreased buyouts. They're going to want to take lower salaries in return. Would that be something we see Matt Rule do? I don't know. It's this whole thing is really interesting to me, how the philosophy of this kind of stuff is going to change moving forward. All right, let's talk some NFL when we come back. The Rob Brown Show. Rob Lonzo, you, the fan upstate. All right, guys, pardon us for just a minute. We'll be right back. The Rob Brown Show back on your radio. It is the Fan Upstate, Rob Brown, the Great Malonzo, and you. 844-326-3663, 844-FANFONE. If you'd like to come at us in that direction, you're welcome and encouraged to do so, be a part of the show. We have been talking quite a bit about the college game so far this morning. I would like to do the same now about the National Football League because there are a few different things that I have to get to. The first is a very wild stat. I don't have anything about it. I don't think it says anything about the league. I don't think that it is like a groundbreaking thing. It's just kind of one of those, I'm a big fan of interesting stats. And I'm not talking about the ones that we see done on the broadcast where they're like, That's the first player wearing number 32 to hit a triple on the third Monday of any given month, since what, like, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about stats that you're like, oh, damn, okay. Like this one.
Yeah, New Heights calls those LeBron stats.
Yeah.
Stats
like they're
just
always
made
weird.
up to make it look like, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I get it. Like they're utilized to tell a story more than they are to make you go, oh, that stat means something. I don't think this stat means anything. I just find it interesting. This week, as we had no rushing fumbles last night, this week is the first week since week 17 of 2022 that there were no fumbles on rushing plays in the NFL. 0 rushing fumbles in the NFL. First time since 2022 that has happened. That is 42 weeks of NFL football. 42 full weeks of NFL football where there was not a fumble. There were fumbles, but every one of them was on either a drop back or after a reception. First time since week 17 of 2022 that there were no fumbles in the NFL. Again, I don't think it means anything. I don't think it says anything. I don't think it's like you can dive into the stat and be like, well, that says that defenses are this or running backs are that or anything like that. It's just interesting to me. Speaking of interesting to me, I don't know the guy's name, but I wish that I did. Lonzo shouted this feller out earlier. Last night in the Texans-Seahawks game, there was a bit of an interesting moment where at the conclusion of a play, we ended up having a bit of a brouhaha on the Texans bench after a Houston interception. Jackson Smith-Njigba was at the middle of this dust-up. And at one point on the sideline, Jackson Smith-Njigba was pretty solidly knocked into the bench, like literally the bench, like got thrown back into the bench. And as he landed on his backside, he threw his hands up in the air. The universal sign of, hey, ref, I'm not doing anything, which for the record, he wasn't. Hey, a little involved in the dust up, but so was everybody else.
He got his helmet stiff-armed off.
Yeah, he got rocked. So he gets rocked. He gets rocked again into the bench. And when he got rocked into the bench, he put the hands up. Well, when the hands went up, there were a handful of Houston Texans players who were signaling some level of aggression in his general direction. And I got to give a shout out to the bro of the night. The bro of the night was the sideline official, because the sideline official, after Jackson Smith-Njigba got knocked onto the bench, as a couple of different Texans were making their way over to Jackson Smith-Njigba, and I'm relatively confident that they weren't going to offer him a Gatorade to de-stress in the moment. This ref came busting through the horde of NFL players like a fullback, and he got in front of Jackson Smith-Njigba and went arms out and started pushing Texans players away from the guy. I got to tell you, we've seen a lot of fights in the NFL, and referees will ordinarily try to stop them until they start getting out of hand. And then, out of what I assume is a deep sense of self-preservation, most officials will be like, I done what I can do. Like, coaches, y'all better get this under control. They may grab some guys on the outskirts of the fracas, but they're not going to, like, jump in and start trying to separate guys up.
I would tell you, he looked like Herb Dean trying to stop a fight. You know, someone's getting a beat down, getting the ground and pound, and Herb Dean gets in there and covers the body so they can, we've seen that in MMA a bunch where they jump into and they cover the body of the person who's getting pummeled. In this case, him covering Njigba is the reason why he didn't get pummeled, probably.
Yeah, it was again, I'm not
if
saying
someone punched the ref, they would get fined, right? For sure.
Oh, 1,000%. And that is one of the reasons that, again, the refs aren't going to do nothing. Like, they will try to break it up. But if you got like 5 or 6 dudes that are all standing over a seated opponent, and I'm not going to say that any of them were going to go up and go 5 to the dome against Jackson Smith and Jigba, but they weren't exactly posturing like they were inviting him over for post-game dinner. Like it was an aggressive posturing from these players. And homeboy came busting through the line and just like was acting as Jackson Smith and Jigba's bodyguard against like 5 or 6 Texan players. That is an absolute Chad moment in that spot in time. That is bro of the week mentality in that spot. Very impressive. Very impressive. All right, looking at the NFL as a whole. 2 weeks ago on this show, we said, is anybody in the NFL good? Now, there's obviously some teams that were good, but the question I think really should have been phrased, is anybody in the NFL clearly one of the dominant teams? Is anybody in the NFL clearly a front runner as their conference's front runner? And the answer 2 weeks ago, I think, was no. There wasn't a clear front runner. You had some good teams. You had a 5-1 Tampa team. You had a 5-1 Colts team. You had a 5-1 Eagles team. Like, you've had these teams kind of bouncing around. But I also pointed out that even the teams that record-wise were at the top of their divisions, were at the top of their conference, nobody looked dominant, right? I would look at Tampa Bay and Indianapolis, who were at the time, and Indianapolis still is, the front runners with the best records in the NFL. And I asked the question about Tampa, and I think it's even more relevant today, especially now with Mike Evans going down with a broken collarbone. He is going to miss the majority of the rest of the season, maybe as much as the entire regular season, potentially into the playoffs. Maybe he comes back with a week or two left. I don't know. We'll see. But with Mike Evans going down, has there been a point this year where Tampa Bay looked like they were a dominant football team, right? Up until their win against San Francisco, they won games by 3 points, 1 point, 2 points, lost by 9, 3 points, and then they finally had a game against San Francisco that did not come down to the final drive. Then they go on the road and they lose to the Lions. They get hammered by the Lions last night, 24-9. Is there any point that Tampa Bay looked like they were just an unbeatable, dominant team? Not really. I didn't think so. There was about 3 weeks in the early portion of the season where the now 4-1-1 Green Bay Packers looked like they were the best team in the NFC. They do not look like a dominant team. The Philadelphia Eagles. Now, this past weekend, it looked like the passing offense kind of clicked a little bit as they beat the Vikings 28-22. But again, a 6-point game. And then that comes off of back-to-back losses to the Broncos and the Giants, in which they scored 17 points in both of those games. The Eagles, the reigning defending, do not look like a dominant team. The 49ers, the Seahawks, and the Rams are all 5-2. By definition, nobody in the NFC West looks like a dominant team. Over in the AFC, I thought the Bills were going to be a dominant team. They are not only not, they're not even in first in the AFC East right now. That would be the 5-2 Patriots. And I got to say, the Patriots look like a good football team. And again, remember, New England was my bet for most improved team in 2025. I really thought with Mike Vrabel, with Drake May, who might have been the biggest shock out of that draft class, this team's pretty good. They've now won 4 in a row, but those 4 came against the Panthers, a good win on the road at Buffalo, the Saints, and the Titans. Until this past weekend, those teams had a shared and combined, 4 wins on the season? Their other win against the Dolphins. That's not exact, outside of Buffalo, not exactly a who's who of teams that New England has beat. You could have maybe said the Steelers up till this weekend, they were 4-1, wins over the Jets, the Patriots, the Vikings, and the Browns. But they just lost to the Bengals, who were banged up with Joe Flacco, who had been on the team for, 9 days, 10 days at that point? I don't think you can say it about them. The Colts are 6-1. But look at the 6. The Dolphins, a good win over the Broncos by a point. The Titans, another bad team. They lose to the Rams. They beat the Raiders, but the Raiders are trash. They beat the Cardinals. The Cardinals have one win. And they won at the Chargers. But did you look at the injury report for the LA Chargers coming into this weekend? The injury report was a better football team than the Saints. Like, that's how many dudes they had, dudes that they had out. Are the Colts a dominant team right now? The answer for me is no. There's been no point that I've looked at the Indianapolis Colts and been like, damn, would you look at that team? Would you look at that team? That team is clearly one of the best. Record-wise, they are. And y'all know, as I am team blame the franchise, not the franchise quarterback, I am absolutely pulling for Danny Dimes, who right now, I think Danny Dimes has the argument to be the MVP frontrunner right now. Jonathan Taylor is back, by the way, too. What's he got? Five touchdowns in the last 2 games? JT's back. And then in the AFC West, the Broncos. The Broncos at 5-2, a good football team. But they are also a team that is winning against bad teams and are doing so by 1 score. The only dominant win they have was against the Bengals the first week they didn't have Joey B. They did beat the Eagles, but the Eagles, again, do not look like the front runner in the NFC right now. They beat the Jets 13-11. They beat the Giants, who, again, the Giants are an improving team, but they beat the Giants by a point this past weekend. The Broncos are good, but they're not dominant. The point that I'm making here is this is, I think, probably the most parity-filled year of football. And when I say football, I mean college and pro. But I think this is the most parity year filled of football that I can remember. Like last year at this point in the NFL season, we kind of knew, okay, the Eagles are a good team. The Chiefs are a good team. The Bills are a good team. The Ravens are a good team. And it is likely that our Super Bowl is coming out of those teams. And Detroit. Detroit's a good team. It's likely our Super Bowl is coming out of those 5 teams. And it did. This year, there's not that.
We're not even halfway yet, though.
I agree.
And I think since there's a lack of preseason games, it takes teams a little longer to get going and to find out who they are. And I think when we get a little bit past halfway, then maybe some teams will start to distance themselves.
I mean, it is certainly possible. And again, it's like I said with the Bucs, we're at the point now where we're going to start to see compounding injuries, right? Guys are beaten up and bruised up, and we're going to start to see compounding injuries that impact teams. Lamar Jackson out for the Ravens is a compounding injury. They are exponentially worse without him. Mike Evans, what is Baker Mayfield going to do without Mr. Consistency, 11 seasons in Tampa, Mike Evans? I don't know. That offense has got to change.
Yeah, but how much has Mike Evans played this year?
A lot. I'll go pull up the exact stat. But again, Mike Evans is another one of those guys that, and I love to point this out. Mike Evans is another one of those guys that has a bunch of impact on the game that doesn't show up on the stat sheet. Mike Evans is a guy, 14 catches, 140 yards, and 1 touchdown. But Mike Evans is also a guy that if you go, hey, Chris Godwin and Emeka Egbuka, like those are the dudes, Mike Evans will cook you at that point. In games so far this year, he has received 31 targets. He has 14 snags, 140, and a touchdown. As far as targets go, that's bad. Less than 50% catch rate for Mike Evans. But again, Mike Evans' impact on the game is what I call the unseen stat. It's an unseen stat. It is, if you want to double Godwin, that's fine. That's where Mike Evans will cook you. That's where he's going to set in underneath a, drop back double team on Chris Godwin and find the sticks.
I mean, it is impactful them losing him, but Baker seems to be a quarterback who spreads it around, and someone else will make up for it.
I don't disagree, but again, it's another one of the spots of You still got to have dudes. Got to have dudes. All right, we'll talk more NFL coming up in the next hour. We'll get to baseball here in just a little while and more. I am Rob Brown. He is Lonzo, and this is a Sports Flash.
Yes, indeed it is. The World Series is set with the Toronto Blue Jays claiming the American League crown with a 4-3 win over Seattle in Game 7 and booking a ticket to square off with the National League champion Los Angeles Dodgers. The Mariners trailed 3-1 in the 7th inning when George Springer launched a 3-run shot to take the lead. The Fall Classic starts Friday night. The Detroit Lions hammered Tampa Bay 24-9 for their 5th win of the season. Jared Goff went 20-29 for 241 yards with 1 touchdown and 1 pick, but it was Jahmyr Gibbs' 136 yards and 2 touchdowns that made the difference. Seattle took a 27-19 victory over Houston on the back of Sam Darnold's 17 of 31, 213-yard night. That included 1 touchdown and 1 pick. The Seahawks held Houston to just 56 rushing yards and C.J. Stroud to 23 of 49 for 229 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 pick. More than likely, all the smoke clears, and it's Kansas City versus Philadelphia in the Super Bowl again. We'll see.
And it's by far QC Kinetics' most robust option for lasting joint pain relief. So if you've been thinking about exploring this proven non-invasive approach to joint pain, now's the time. And to make it super
We'll be back. I'm going to go have a good cry, and then we'll return. Stop it, Kane.
Bro.
Dude. Welcome back to the Rob Brown Show on your radio. It's the Fan Upstate. I would like to circle back around to a story / I'll say conversation I had. I was going to call it a confrontation. I guess technically it was. But it was a good conversation that I had yesterday. If you missed yesterday's show, I had a take that a few of you were on board with and a few of you despised to your core. And the take that I had was Lenore Sellers should shut it down for the year. He should, I'm going to use the phrase that many of you will accuse this of being, though I do not agree with you. He should quit on his team. Now, I understand that there are a lot of other dudes on that football team that would be hurt by that. I understand that there are a lot of other dudes on that football team that are going to continue to bleed and sweat for that football team. I understand that there are a lot of football dudes, a lot of dudes on that football team that would be made sick by just the thought of the concept of not playing football anymore. But of all a lot of dudes on that football team, there is only one of them that has the potential to be a first-round NFL draft pick, and that is Lenore Sellers. There is only one of them that has the potential to sign a $50 million fully guaranteed contract in the NFL, and that is Lenore Sellers. There is only one of them that is being evaluated by the NFL as a guy to be taken in the first round of the NFL draft. I don't think there's another first rounder on that team. If you disagree, let me know who you think it is. But right now, I ain't got one. So, special circumstances require special actions. And I would say, and I do not think any of you can disagree with me, that Lenore Sellers is certainly a special circumstance. As there are not many, I was going to say consensus, but for a while there was consensus, but overall, not many guys that are first round NFL draft picks. And not many guys that are looking ahead to potentially as much as a $50 million fully guaranteed 4-year contract, with the knowledge that in recent memory, guys who step up and they earn that $50 million fully guaranteed 4-year contract usually get extended in year 2, meaning that $50 million is suddenly $85 million on a 5-year extension, and you're looking at north of $100 million in fully guaranteed money. Our second-round guys are now signing fully guaranteed contracts. Second-round guys. So the first-round guys are absolutely getting it, and for fat stacks of cash, dog. So then when I take that, a special circumstance, and I put it into the South Carolina football team, a 3-4 football program that, as far as I'm concerned, with the exception of the Vanderbilt game, and I may even disagree with this, but with the exception of the Vanderbilt game, I don't think South Carolina has lost a football game yet that they couldn't have won had they played better ball. The Vanderbilt game, Diego Pavia was balling TF out. There's no argument there. But I also said the Monday after that game, the most disappointing thing about the season in 2025, as far as I'm concerned, is not the record of the South Carolina Gamecocks. It was the fact that on that Monday, I did something that I absolutely did not think that I would do all season long, which was to question the heart, the grit, the toughness, the motivation of the Gamecock football team. We've said 1,000 times. A successful football program is built on a foundation that supports 4 pillars. The foundation is your culture, and that's true of every football team. The foundation of your team is your culture. If you get dudes who are bought into culture, and it can be any culture, tough, rigid, militaristic mentality, goofy, fun dancing in the locker room mentality, whip your ass every day, party on Monday mentality, whatever mentality it is, that's your culture. And you build that as the foundation. Then you have the 4 pillars: player acquisition, player retention, player development, game day execution. The one thing I did not think, I thought there would be points where maybe we question the talent acquisition. Maybe we question the talent retainment. Maybe we question the talent development. Maybe we question some game day decisions and execution. But I did not think we'd ever question the foundation, and I did that day. I think Vanderbilt was still a winnable game. It's a good football team. It's a top 10 football team. I still think it was a winnable game. Probably primarily had Lenore's not gotten injured. But B, if the team wouldn't have rolled over after he did. Then the Missouri game. Game day execution. I thought offensively the play calling was booty cheeks. And how many times does Ahmad Hardy have to run through arm tackles before your defense goes, guys, this one's a little on us, man. Like, this one's a little on us. Like, we maybe need to get this corrected here. That's a problem. The LSU game. I think you shot yourself in the foot. I think that game was very much winnable. In fact, I think that game was won until you once again had Lenore Sellers acting as a pocket passing quarterback. I want you to realize you are running an offense that is suited for Drew Bledsoe when you have the most athletically gifted quarterback in college football this year, in my opinion. And then the Oklahoma game. Again, that game was a game for a half and then a half of a quarter before it opened up. Why did it open up? Because South Carolina just couldn't finish, and Oklahoma said, okay, we can start getting a little more aggressive here. And they did, and it started resulting in touchdowns. So the reason that I said I would shut it down if I was Lenore Sellers is the offensive line is bad, and it is not getting better. If the offensive line was getting better week by week, right? If we could point and say, yeah, they're not good, but they are getting better week by week, I'd say keep going. Keep going. Because if you keep going and they keep going, by the end of the year, maybe you're clicking, maybe you're ticking, and the value goes back up. But they're not. And number two, and I've ranted on this enough, I don't need to give you any explanations, but the play calling is atrocious. There were three that stepped out. Number one, the goal line push on offense. 3 times you tried to ISO, run it right off center. 3 times you got stuffed at the line because your offensive line can't block anybody at the point of attack. The 3rd and 7, where you also tried to middle run at a point in time where Oklahoma was killing the middle run. And then on the 3rd and 2, where if you were going to middle run on a 3rd down, that would have been the spot. And instead, you run a slowly developing down the field pass play behind an offensive line that you can't slowly develop behind because they get rapidly defeated. Play calling's cheeks, man. It's just not good. So, with all that being said, there is, as far as I am concerned, no benefit to Lenore Sellers finishing this season, at least not as things are going right this moment. And again, Shane Beamer can snap at Jack all he wants. He fired an offensive line coach and replaced him with Sean Elliott. Great. That doesn't fix the issue, man. Unless Sean Elliott now in 2 weeks is going to be able to completely retool and develop the offensive line over halfway through the season. That's not it. That's not going to fix the problem. And when he gets asked, are you considering making a change to play calling? And he says, next question. Like, okay. So yesterday afternoon, if you watched the show, you saw that I was wearing my station polo shirt. So I got done with the show. I had a couple of meetings. I went through them. I went back to the crib. The wifey came home. I left. We went shopping. When we went to a local store right outside of Taylor, South Carolina, where we both reside. Of course, we both reside. We're married. Where we reside. As we were walking around in the store, I was approached by a gentleman who introduced himself as Red. He said, "You're Rob Brown." And I said, "Yes, sir. Great to meet you." And he said, "Great to meet you. I'm Red." And he said, "I've never met you before, but I got to tell you, I like your show, but you really made me mad as hell this morning." And I said, "How so?" And he said, "With your Lenore's take." He said, "In what world should Lenore Sellers quit on his team?" And then that's when I gave him the response. Special circumstances call for special actions. Lenore Sellers is a special circumstance. We're not talking about Dylan Raiola. We're not talking about Christopher Vazina. We're talking about a special circumstance. We're talking about a number 1 overall draft pick potentially. I got to look out for the guy's future. I think the guy should look out for the guy's future. I don't got to do anything, but I would like to look out for the guy's future. I said special circumstances call for special actions. A special action in this case. If this was a guy who was a red shirt sophomore, right? not on anybody's NFL draft radar. No, I'd say finish the year, man. Like, finish it up. Use this time to improve yourself. If nothing else, learn how to play under pressure, right? But explain to me why you are so upset about my Lenora Sellers take. And he said, well, number one, I don't think it's a good idea, and I think we are doing too much of telling young people it is okay to quit when adversity hits. And I said, I don't think that's the lesson here. I don't. I think the lesson here is the reality is sometimes you do need to look out for number one. This is a country built on rugged individualism. It is a country built on the premise of take care of you. And once you are taken care of, then look out for the people around you. It is the real life version of,
once the overhead masks are deployed, place the mask on your own face before placing it on those of the people around you.
right? Like that's our philosophy in life as Americans. That's what I'm asking the guy to do. Put the mask on yourself before you start worrying about the mask going on the guys around you. I said, but okay, keep going. I think it's okay for him to look out for his future because his future is more lucrative and profitable playing football than anybody else on that football team. And it is actively under threat. And I'm not just talking about injury, which, again, and I pointed this out in the conversation, the longer you watch the game, the more you recognize it takes Lenora Sellers longer and longer to get up after these hits. Like, watch him. Watch in the fourth quarter. He takes a shot after dropping back and just having a Hail Mary a ball into row 7 to not get blasted. He gets blasted. And the O-line, out of what I can only assume is a sense of guilt because they got him wrecked again, goes to try to help him out. And he's just Charlie Brown laid out on the floor. Oh, like you can hear the coming out of him. So injuries, absolutely a concern of mine. But at the same time, as somebody who is absolutely keeping track of NFL draft stock in college football players, I can tell you his is falling dramatically right now. Because unfortunately, even though a lot of us that watch every game can look at it and we can say, hey, it's not Lenoris that's a problem here. It's the offensive line. It's the run game. It's the fact that, the defense is terrible and it's creating situations where they got to go out and press on offense, and that's hurting him. All that put together, it's hurting Lenora Sellers' draft stock. And every time he goes down one more tick, you were talking about millions of dollars coming out of his long-term bank account. And working under the assumption that it is possible that Lenora Sellers goes to the NFL, plays on a rookie contract, doesn't work out, I want his rookie contract to be worth as much as is possible. And from a South Carolina perspective, it would be very good for you to have a top-flight, top-line, top-notch starter in the NFL because every time he plays, Lenora Sellers, University of South Carolina. All right, here comes Lenora Sellers getting his first start for the, New Orleans Saints. Young man out of Columbia, South Carolina, played for the Gamecocks and Shane Beamer last year, right? Like that, you're losing out on this as well. Because if he's not a top draft pick, nobody's going to care about that. So he said, here's the reasons football-wise that he should stick around. He said, number one, leadership. NFL scouts, GMs, head coaches, especially out of a quarterback, maybe more than any other position on the field, they are looking for someone with leadership. He said if Lenora Sellers sticks around, just by default, it shows leadership. He's not going to back down when a challenge shows up. I said, I get it. And he said the second part of this is there is one person that wears a helmet on Saturdays that has the opportunity. And I'm paraphrasing what Red said, but it was pretty much this argument. There's one person in that locker room who on any given day could walk in, slam his fist down on a desk and say, damn it, it's not good enough. And what do we need to do to fix it? This is a guy that could go to Shano and go, Coach, what we're doing isn't working. I am asking you, help us, change something. He could go to Mike Shula and go, Coach, your offense stinks. You're getting me killed. I'm getting wrecked out there. Can we add in this, take out that, do this differently, yada, yada, yada. He could go to the players and go, guys, not good enough. We've got to execute better. We can do this, but we got to do this. He can go to the offensive line. What do you need from me to get better? The running backs, what do you need from me to get better? He can show that leadership. And I said, you're absolutely right. And I think that is a great call. I think you're absolutely spot on correct. But we're 7 games deep in the season, my guy. We're 7 games deep in the season. If we are 7 games deep in the season and he either A, hasn't done it, or B, has done it and it clearly hasn't worked, why do I think it's going to suddenly change in week 8? Why do I think it's going to suddenly change in week 8? I can't think that it does. Then he went on to say, Rob Brown, he didn't say my name every time. That's just a figure of speech.
Thank you, because I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe in my head I heard that, but all right.
Then he went on to say, Rob Brown, you and I both know that Lenora Sellers is a loyal Gamecock. That's why he is here. Lenora Sellers could have played for any school in college football. He could have played for Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, wherever. He could have played in the SEC, in the Big Ten. He could have played anywhere, and he would have been given everything you wanted and more. Probably would have made more NIL money too. He is here because he's loyal to the Gamecock fan base, and that's the type of dude that is going to prove that by sticking it out even when things get tough. And I said, that's great, man. That's great. I am loyal to where I work.
I hope you didn't use that tone when he's.
No, and just like he didn't call me Rob Brown every time he started a new point.
All right, because
I said, look, I get it. I am loyal to where I work. There's a lot of good. In fact, I love it here. I love Lonzo. I love Cole. I love Diesel. I love my bosses. There's genuinely nobody in this building that I don't like, and people I disagree with, and yet I still like them. That's where I am. I love where I work. But at the same time, if I love where I work and then somebody comes to me and they go, hey, man, we want to give you 50 times the amount of money you're making right now to come do this thing somewhere else or to change. If tomorrow somebody called me and said, Rob, we want to pay you $1 million a year, but it's not radio broadcasting, it's public relations for whatever company. Y'all, I'm going. Because as much as I love this place and I am loyal and I will stay loyal and I will work hard and give everything I got for the radio station and the cluster, at the same time, that's a big deal. I said, I don't think it shows a sign of disloyalty to say, y'all, I got $50 million on the line here. And if the team isn't going to get better, and if the team isn't going to improve, and if the guys aren't going to get better, and if all of this is going to be hung in a position that is going to tick from, okay, I got 50 million. Oh, now I got 45. Oh, now I got 40. Now I got 38. Now I got 37. Now I got 35. Now I got 32. Now I got 30. Now I got $28 million because I'm the 17th or 18th overall pick. Is it disloyalty to say hasta luego? Is it disloyalty to say I got a split? I don't know, man. Texas said, okay, Rob, you would go, but would you work a 2 weeks notice? Because that's what he's doing. He needs to work his notice before he goes to the NFL. The answer is I'd try to, but if I get a phone call after this show and somebody goes, hey, Rob Brown, this is George from Fortune 500 company XYZ Co. And we want to pay you $5 million a year to come run our marketing department, but you have to start this afternoon. Y'all, I'm out. I'll post the nicest, kindest, most glowing goodbye, farewell notice on Twitter that I can come up with. But yes, I'm gone because that is generational life-changing wealth that you are asking him to pass up and potentially risk for what? For an offense that's not getting better around him, for an offensive coordinator who's not changing what's happening, for a head coach who's not changing the offensive coordinator who's not changing what's happening, playing behind an offensive line that is not developing or getting better at all. Like for what? What is the reason that he stays? There's not one. Short of quitting bad, which I agree, quitting's bad. But sometimes it is the right decision, man. You don't have to like it, but we don't live in a world of ideals. Sometimes quitting is the right decision. And I think for Lenora Sellers, it genuinely would be. Back after this on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate.
That world.
All right, guys, got to do one more live read. Stay right there. We will be right back. It is the Rob Brown Show. It is the Fan Upstate. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Rob Brown, the Great Malonzo, and you. Man, I didn't know where to put this. I didn't even know if it was going to be worth putting anywhere. But the more I think about it, the more it is. Hey, Lane Kiffin, say the thing. Oh, of course. Hey, Lane Kiffin, say the thing.
A film study of signals. I mean, as I just tell you how it is. I think they do a great job of that. So if you study people really well, tendencies, and then you have enough confidence as a coach to go after those, that seems what he does. And seems like, they've got a really good beat on the plays that are coming when they're called. And they do a great job of going and taking those away. When you look at the Auburn game, I mean, I told Hugh after the game watching it, I mean, you might want to switch the signals. Like, it looks like they have the plays. The middle safety's running down to steal slants, which is very abnormal.
You may have just answered my next question, but do you get with that in mind? Do you have to kind of shake everything up from a signal standpoint this week, or do you do that every week anyway?
No, we're going to keep our same signals.
I mean, I guess I was wondering, do you do that every week, or is that something that you have to specifically address because of who you're playing?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And competitively, I can't answer that for you.
What's Lane Kiffin saying right there? Lane Kiffin is saying that the Sooners of Oklahoma University, at the very least, study film of the signals. And I would dare say that Lane Kiffin maybe is accusing OU of specifically filming and stealing the signals. Now, I think that just a year or two, I'll say 2 years ago, I think 2 years ago, this would have been a non-story. I think 2 years ago, this would have been a non-story. But nowadays, courtesy of one Connor Stallion, this isn't really a non-story anymore. I have been fascinated with Lane Kiffin this year. Lane Kiffin has gone from a dude who, because of the way that he left Tennessee to go to USC, the way that he was not super successful at USC, the way his NFL head coaching tenure went, and his path that brought him back to Ole Miss. All very interesting. And now Lane Kiffin is being discussed as a potential replacement at the University of Florida. In fact, reports out of Gainesville right now are that Lane Kiffin is Florida's #1 target to replace Billy Napier. Lane Kiffin has been discussed as a possible candidate at Pennsylvania State University. Now, I will say this. I think that there is a reason that Pat Kraft, the AD at Penn State last week, when he was discussing the qualities they are looking for in their next head coach, I played the audio for you, and he said, we're looking for somebody who's going to attack the transfer portal. We are looking for someone who is going to utilize all of the resources of Penn State University. And he specifically said, we are looking for someone who understands the culture of Penn State. He didn't say to come in and set the culture. He didn't say to come in and change the culture, to come in and adopt. He said someone who understands and embraces our culture. For the record, I don't think Lane Kiffin is exactly the lunch pail toting, blue collar, coal mine working Penn State guy that Pat Kraft was talking about. But at the same time, what they want more than anybody else, obviously, is somebody who's going to win. Is that Lane Kiffin? I don't know. And then, of course, you bring all the other fun stories around Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin's been great in the couple of appearances that he's made in live interviews on Game Day. Did you see Lane Kiffin on Game Day last week? It was hilarious. Lane Kiffin went live on Game Day, and he was walking around the outdoor portion of like a hotel/vineyard setup.
Yeah, and Desmond had the best line. when he cracked on the grass.
Oh yeah.
He's said he hopes I forget what it was. Hopes the grass on the field looks better than the grass that you're surrounded by.
I mean, it
now.
didn't look like it was the most expensive hotel/vineyard, but Lane Kiffin's like giving this whole thing, and is he like he's giving an answer about something, and he like stops and he like starts pointing and he goes, "There's people just hanging out in their robes over there. Like there's just two people just in their robes." He's like, Coach Saban would be losing his mind. He'd be screaming at some travel coordinators right now. I can't have my team seeing this. Is just two naked people in robes over there. It was hilarious. Then there was the one a couple of weeks ago when they were talking to him before whatever Ole Miss's first SEC game was. I can't remember off the top of my head, but he's out there on the field walking around. The dude is hilarious. Like Joey Freshwater got jokes. And I think he's still like the same comedy guy, but he's like mellowed out as far as being kind of an agitator, a troll, right? And then you had the whole thing with Will Weeks, the linebacker at LSU, now dating Lane Kiffin's daughter, right? And he had all these jokes leading up to the game, and then Ole Miss beat LSU, and Will Weeks puked on the field. And he's like, yeah, we may have run a little up tempo there just for old Will's sake. Looks like it worked for us. Like he got his own 30 for 30 on ESPN that I got to tell you, like I haven't gotten a chance to sit down and watch, but I cannot wait to do so. The summer of Lane is real. So the guy is right now forefront of college football, at least in terms of publicity. And I do think that this is part of the reason that Ole Miss is where they are. Like this guy, like Lane Kiffin, this guy is getting Ole Miss where they want to be, partially by recognizing that being goofy, silly, fun makes people pay attention to me. They might like me, they might hate me, but they pay attention to me. And now all of a sudden, little old Ole Miss is by the week front and center in the college football world. It doesn't hurt that they're, winning all their football games, with the exception of a very good Georgia game. Lane gets it. So for Lane to be front and center of the college football world, even if he was being exaggerative or tongue-in-cheek or just kind of having a little fun at the expense of Brent Venables. And again, I don't really know a lot about Brent Venables, right? Like he wasn't at Clemson long after I got here before he moved on. I interacted with him once or twice at like Clemson media days, and that was really it. Brent Venables doesn't really strike me as dude who has like the jokey, fun, haha relationship with a coach like Lane Kiffin that Kirby Smart does, where Lane can get on the mic and be like, I don't know, man, I was just watching TV. It doesn't really look like Kirby's been burning too many calories up there in Athens. Like that's something I think Kirby Smart can kind of laugh with, roll with, maybe make a little bulletin board material out of it, but it's not going to be like, a narrative, a talking point. Lane tiptoeing right up to the line of accusing Oklahoma of doing the thing that just got Michigan absolutely hammered. And by absolutely hammered, I mean not really hammered at all, but like definitely hammered in the college football media sphere. To pretty much accuse him of that is kind of a big deal, man. Like it's kind of a big deal. Now, I will point out that he didn't necessarily outright say, oh, they are filming and stealing signals. And
so why aren't you angry at him? Telling him that he needs to show, what he's talking about.
Because he didn't accuse him of cheating, right? Like there is a line. When Shane Beamer says, my football players are taking phone calls illegally from people at other programs that are trying to entice them to leave with money, that is a direct accusation of cheating. And if you are going to directly accusate of cheating, then tell us who it is or don't tell us. Lane didn't say they're doing the thing. He just said they look at the film, they study the signals, and because they are good at that, it seems like they got a pretty good grasp of what's coming, when it's coming, how it's coming, et cetera, et cetera. So he didn't accuse him of cheating. He just said, look, I think they do a good job of looking at film and grabbing signals. And here's the reality. And I said this during the Michigan thing. Everybody does that. In fact, you're dumb if you don't do it. Because if you can get the tip that every time that the offensive line coach puts his hands out to the side like a T-pose, that means that they're about to run a inside veer. I got a huge advantage on at least a handful of snaps, right? It is a totally different thing to have a guy shave his beard down to a hilariously bad guy in an 80s movie goatee and put on fake glasses and go stand on the sideline and directly with a camera film the signals and all that. That is absolutely directly illegal and against the rules. So again, like, I'm just interested in that he didn't outright accuse them of cheating, but he damn sure tiptoed up to the line of it. And I wonder what comes of that. By the way, 1,000% will be paying attention to every word that leaves Brent Venable's mouth for the next 48 hours. All right, let's take a break. Back after this, we'll wrap the show up next. The Rob Brown Show is on the radio. It is the Fan Upstate. What is Lane Kiffin getting paid by Ole Miss? $9 million annual base pay, not including potential bonuses, which he's obviously in line to end up getting one. 4-year contract signed in 2020, paid him $16.2 million. Here we go. Here's Lane Kiffin's contract explained. Kiffin's contract with Ole Miss runs through 2030, according to USA Today's list of coaching sellers. Kiffin makes $9 million annually, eligible for a max of $2.6 million in bonuses this season. His buyout is $36.6 million. The way that Kiffin's contract is structured gives him an automatic 1-year extension if his team reaches 7 wins. This happened last season when the Rebels beat Arkansas last November to reach 7. Added year set to be worth $9 million with $7.2 million guaranteed. This extends his deal through 2020. Okay, that's an old one.
Is that each year? Does that happen?
I don't know if that's an annual or if that was just the first year. Let's see here. The highest paid head coaches in the country right now, as far as annual salary go: Kirby Smart, 13.28, Ryan Day, 12.57, Kurt Cignetti, 11.6, Dabo, 11.4, Sark, 10.8, Dan Lanning, 10.4, Kalen DeBoer, 10.25, Brian Kelly, 10.17, Bill Belichick, 10.1, Lane Kiffin, 9 flat.
So 3 of the top 4 have won national championships. None of the others have.
Correct. For the record, aren't they the only ones active with championships?
Right.
Yeah. So the only 3 that have a championship are 3 of the top 4. The other guy inside the top 4 at number 3 is Kurt Cignetti, who just signed his, but has Indiana in a place they've never been before. I just had a typo trying to type Gmail, and I typed GNA, G-N-A, and then it led me to a link about a bad guy from the God of War series.
Okay.
I've never played a God of War game.
Yeah, neither have I.
I've got a dear friend, my best friend from back home, who we also just watched yesterday, the early release game preview footage of Assassin's Creed Codename Hex, which I am stupid excited about. We're big Assassin's Creed guys. So we got onto the conversation a while back about God of War. He's like, dude, how many God of War games you played? I was like, none. He's like, you are going to love God of War. You have to play. But then I went and looked, and it dates back to like 2003.
Yeah, they've been around for a while.
He's like, the lore of God of War is like decades long at this point. It's
Because
like,
they're
can
saying-
I catch up? Can I play everything?
There's a lot of pantheons of
Yeah.
gods that he needs.
Yeah, because he's
check out.
he's in Norse right now,
Yeah,
Norse
I believe so.
mythology. And then I saw the next one is, where was he going next? They're switching to a new one.
Game
next.
Pass Ultimate.
Yes. For now, I'm probably going to drop it soon because it's going up to like,
It's already went up. It
Oh.
went up like last month. Did you see all the new game, all the Assassin's Creed games?
Yes.
All Ubisoft is now
Yes.
available. So
Yes.
there's a ton that I'm like, man, I didn't even know that
I
existed.
have one legendary ship remaining, and I will have 100%ed Black Flag, which is I think the only game I've ever 100%ed will be Black Flag. Pirate game. The Rob Brown Show back on your radio. It is the Fan Upstate. Rob Brown, the Great One, Lonzo, and you. Texter said, in fact, I got a couple of texts I'll read here on the show. Texter said, Rob, if it wasn't for A.D. Mitchell, the Colts would be 7-0. And did you see our defensive injury report? We're starting practice squad guys at DB. What's it take for somebody to admit the Colts are actually back? That's from Keith and TR. Keith, let me be very clear. I do think the Colts are a good team. I do think the Colts are a good team.
When he says they're back, I mean, back to where?
To like the Peyton Manning days, I have to imagine.
Okay.
I think the Colts are back.
How many Super Bowls did Peyton Manning win? With the Colts?
One. I am fine with that. I think the Colts are a very good team.
I'm not cracking on the Colts. I think it's awesome that Danny Dimes went there and is doing what he's doing.
So do I. Again, Danny Dimes is one of the illustrations of, oh God, Rob's been right the whole time about franchises ruining quarterbacks. Would you look at that?
You know, it's sad. I can't remember his real last name.
Jones.
Thank you.
Danny Dimes. So I think the Colts are a very good team. But you have to recognize, I did not say there are no good teams in the NFL, Keith. What I said is there is not a front-running dominant team that has been impressive week in and week out that makes you go, that's your front. Everybody's gunning for that guy. For a few years now, it has been the Chiefs, and to a lesser degree, the Bills and the Ravens, that everybody in the AFC went, we're gunning for them. Like, that's the mark. In the NFC, it was a hot minute that it was the Rams. Last year, it was the Lions. There's not that one team in the NFC that you go, everybody is gunning for that team. Everybody's looking for that squad. They're trying to meet the mark set by that squad. There's not that team. And I think the Colts could develop into that team. You are correct. When they get fully healthy, when they get everybody. Now that Jonathan Taylor is starting to get going again, I think he's back into that mix. I'm not saying they're not a good team, Keith and TR. Quite the opposite. I think they are a good team. What I'm saying is the NFL doesn't have that team. Like, right? Like, they don't have that team. They don't have the standard bearer. They don't have the benchmark setter. They don't have that right now. And if they don't have that right now, like, what do they have? That's my question. I don't think anything. I scratch that. What do they have? Parity. They have great parity. They have got great parity around the league, and I think that's the best thing. And I pointed that out. It's the same thing in college ball as well. We talked about this earlier in the show. Phenomenal parity across college football. Right now, I think it is very evident that the best team in the country are the Ohio State Buckeyes. And I think that the Indiana Hoosiers are right there in the back pocket with Mendoza. I think they are right there in the back pocket. I think there's a little bit of a gap down to Texas A&M, Alabama. I think Alabama's closer to the top than they looked a few weeks ago. But parity's good. Parity's good for football. More games are more entertaining. NFL Sundays now feel like there are 8 or 9 games that I need to pay attention to, not like 3 or 4. And I think that's good. Bryce Young confirmed high ankle sprain. That, according to Dave Canales yesterday, said that they will be taking the injury, quote, day to day on that right now. Said, quote, we're just going to look at him each day, test the ankle in different ways to see if we can't get him back out there on Wednesday in some way, shape, or form. I saw him this morning, talk to him. He's like, let's push this thing. Let's see what we've got. So we're going to try to take that approach with it. But again, we're going to have to go through some milestones with our return to play with our training staff. Canales did not rule out that Young's injury could keep him out longer than the one game he is now slated to be out, which is this Sunday against the Buffalo Bills. But would also like to point out that Bryce Young has the same high ankle sprain that Jatavian Sanders recently had. It made Sanders miss 3 games. High ankle sprains usually sideline a player somewhere between 2 to 4 games. So it is unlikely that, scratch that, BY will not be back this weekend. To be honest with you, I think it is unlikely that he will be back the week after that. So what does that mean for the Carolina Panthers? Well, you got Buffalo, and I'll keep it a buck. Despite the fact that I am pleased with the gradual, not steep, but gradual uphill trajectory of the Carolina Panthers, assuming the Buffalo Bills don't come out and lay another egg, I got to pick Buffalo this weekend. The week after that, they're on the road at the Packers. If BY is unavailable for that game, this is a team that just got above 500 to 4-3, and in 2 weeks they could go right back to sub 500 at 4-5. That's a real possibility. The interesting thing to me, though, is this. Twofold. Number one, you're chasing Tampa Bay. You're a game behind the Buccaneers right now, with the knowledge that Mike Evans is now down for Tampa Bay. And while Mike Evans does not have flashy numbers on the stat sheet for the Buccaneers, Mike Evans is one of the guys that, to me, is about the invisible stats, the unseen statistics, the statistics of how many times does this guy run a 9 route that takes a corner with him that allows a tight end to jump underneath, especially considering Baker Mayfield can hit the deep ball, but he does not live and die by it. How many times has Mike Evans cleared out an area of the field to open that area of the field up for Baker Mayfield? The answer is many. How many times has Mike Evans run a seam route to make sure that a safety can't fold over to Chris Godwin and give him the chance to catch the ball down the football field? I think that is a lot. So Mike Evans is down. A huge part of Tampa Bay's offense, not statistically, but unseen stats, is now down and out. And if that is the case, if that is the situation there, that team takes a step back. So after 2 weeks, assuming losses without Bryce Young to Bills and Packers, the week after that is November 9th. The New Orleans Saints come to town. The Saints are not a good team. The Saints are a bad football team with 1 win right now. They're not atrocious. They're not atrocious. They can put points up on the board. They gave Chicago a game. They beat the Giants, who, the Giants went on an absolute heater the week after the Saints beat them. The New Orleans Saints are a bad team, but they are not an atrocious team. They're not an abysmal team right now. And if they're not an abysmal team, 1-score game against the Patriots. 1-score. In fact, I believe every loss except for Seattle and Buffalo were all 1-score games for New Orleans. If BY is not back by that game, remember, Andy Dalton spent a year in New Orleans. They've got familiarity both directions. If Bryce Young is not back and ready for that game, if Carolina goes 0-3, whether it is with or without Bryce Young, if Carolina goes 0-3 in the next 3, you are going to be in trouble at that point if you believe that division contention is a real possibility this year. This is why I came into the year saying, if you're a Panthers fan, the expectations need to be realistic. You should not set the expectations this year at divisional title. Because to be honest, even if you do, and even if you win it, it will be as much about the rest of the division being bad as it will about you have improved enough to at least be in contention in a bad division. This is why I said this year, the mark of improvement ought to be a record mark. Let's get close to 500, which might be good enough to win the division.
So you don't think they can win any games with Andy Dalton?
They can beat New Orleans with Andy Dalton.
There's one way they can win.
Oh, again, that's why I said, well, here's the thing. I would agree. But Rico had 72 rushing yards. Still a good game. A good game.
Yeah, because the other rushing attempts were given to Chuba Hubbard.
Yeah, but he only had like 40 something.
That's the point,
right? If you think Chuba Hubbard taking those carries prevented him going 7 to 200 yards, that's a different story.
Well, I would say that it's a possibility.
Sure, it is a possibility.
Because we already seen him do it like the week before.
2 weeks in a row before that.
When he had all the carries, right.
I totally agree. I'm not saying that it is an absolute no. Not by any stretch of the imagination am I saying that it's an absolute no. What I am saying is, you saw Andy Dalton in this game this past weekend, and he didn't exactly look crisp. First action of the season. Maybe he picks it up. Maybe he goes red rifle on us again. But what I am saying is Carolina cannot go 0-3 in the next 3 with or without Bryce Young without going, oh, crap, maybe that was a mirage.
And now, the Rob Brown Show presents Twitter.
All right, time for me to ask Rob what is Xing, and who will let everyone know the first thing that's Xing is D'Amico Ryans.
D'Amico Ryan's Xing because the Texans lost last night to the Seattle Seahawks, and it was not really a game. 2 years ago, D'Amico Ryans had a Houston Texans team that was the absolute shock and surprise of the NFL, made a playoff run behind C.J. Stroud, looked very, very good. Last year, the Texans took a step back, and everybody said, okay, sophomore slump for C.J. Stroud. He'll get it right. He'll get back. I had Houston finishing third place in this division this year because the one thing nobody talked about last year was that the Texans' offensive line was booty cheeks last year, and I don't think they got better. I genuinely do not think that they got better across the offensive line, and I think you're starting to see that show up in the season. The teams that are better across the D-line, the linebacker spot, are beating the Texans. The question mark I have, and I don't know if this is why, the question mark I have, great one, is D'Amico Ryans trending because people are starting to say maybe he's the next hot seat coach?
Yeah, I was getting ready to do this.
Okay. Yep. I mean, I get it. But at the end of the day, like I
was
said,
shifting in my chair as if it were heated.
this is a spot where I would say, I think this is a coach that the players love. I think it's a coach who can coach. I think we've seen it. I think this is a coach who is falling victim to the roster construction of a bad general manager. That's what I think is happening. And that happens sometimes. Just like sometimes it's the quarterback and sometimes it's the franchise. Sometimes it's the head coach and sometimes it's the GM. I think this is a coach who is a good coach that the players will go to war for, who is in trouble because of really bad roster management by the general manager.
All right, the next thing is Xing is 2 moons.
2 moons.
Oh, you don't know about this?
No, I do not.
Okay.
Is it another 3-eye atlas thing?
No, this
Okay.
is you can look this up. Apparently we have 2 moons till like 2086. There is a heavenly body who is who is orbiting the sun like the earth, but it's trailing the earth. So it's like following the earth around the sun. So it's not orbiting the earth.
Well, then it's not a moon. That's the definition of a moon.
Well, if you look it up, I believe NASA confirmed.
No,
it. They're calling it 2 moons.
I am looking at
So
that.
if you look up in the sky, it's really small, but they say it's the size of a building.
I do not believe, I could be wrong. I haven't seen the press releases or anything. I believe NASA is referring it to as a quasi moon.
Yeah.
Not a moon.
Okay. Yeah.
It
and
is
Pluto's not a planet.
Yeah.
It's not.
Correct.
I mean, okay, whatever.
Well, words and definitions have meanings.
I get it, but who ever heard of a quasi moon other than you probably?
Right. But that doesn't mean that it's not what we should call the thing.
Because
that's
here's
what the thing is.
The thing, quasi moon, what's the last part of that?
Not second.
That would be moon. Quasi moon,
Quasi-moon.
which means it's moon-like.
It is. So a moon, by definition, is a celestial body partnered up with another that stays within the orbit of that body without impacting the. I mean, obviously it impacts the orbit, and that there's always a spot between the two where gravity circles around. But our gravitational center of the moon is inside of planet Earth, so it orbits Earth. Ergo, it is a true moon. A quasi moon will either double orbit or will have some sort of other it's still impacted by Earth's gravity. That's why it's trailing us, but it does not orbit Earth. Therefore, it is not a moon. It is a quasi moon.
Okay.
So Earth has a moon and a quasi moon, not 2 moons.
So what they need to do is come up with another name for it. So moon is not in the definition because
is an El Camino a truck?
No.
Correct. And this isn't a moon.
You know what it's also
has
not?
qualities
You know what
of
it's
truck.
also not? It's not a car.
Right. And so we don't call it those things.
You're right.
Right.
We call it an El Camino, which is why it shouldn't be a quasi moon. It should have a different name. So therefore people wouldn't get confused and think it's another moon. I'm just saying it all comes down to how it's named and what and come up with something that doesn't say moon in it.
Okay, I'm fine with that. But again,
that was my whole point.
Okay, fair enough. What else is true?
All right.
Give me one.
Dodgers in 5.
Yeah, the betting odds right now are that the Dodgers are just going to smoke Toronto. I don't know. Listen, I feel like, and this is the take I had, and we're going to talk more about this as we inch ever closer to World Series Game 1 on Friday night. Here's where I'm at. It's hard for me not to say Dodgers in 5. Toronto can get one because they'll have a big George Springer, Vladdy Guerrero multi-home run game somewhere. But the reality is the Dodgers are not just winning the low-scoring games and the high-scoring games. The Dodgers pitching staff right now is absolutely electric and out of this world. And I don't care what offense they're up against. It's hard to hit them. And so the Dodgers are able to win those 2-1, 3-2 type baseball games. I hope Toronto's there. Toronto obviously having played more recently, but still having a good break from last night till Friday. Toronto with a good upfront pitching staff and good lineup. I think they're alive. I think they're game in this. But I just don't see a world that the Dodgers aren't winning back-to-back World Series. We're going to talk more about that as we get closer to Friday, but not today because the show's over. Thanks for being here. I hope you enjoyed it. If you didn't, that kind of sounds like a you problem. Come back tomorrow. We'll try all over again to do even better. Rob Alonso and you on the Rob Brown Show. See you back here tomorrow on the Fan Upstate.
And what do you know? We got a couple of haters.
Shame we didn't get to my final one, which was Ben Solo. I'm guessing you didn't know about the Ben Solo thing.
No.
So the Kylo Ren, the star,
Yes.
they came up with an idea called Hunting for Ben Solo. They have a script and everything. Went to Disney, and Disney said, no, he's dead.
No,
According to what I've read, it was supposed to be an Empire Strikes Back type movie. But you can't have an Empire Strikes Back movie without having because that's a middle movie getting to. So what's the end game for that? It's a
middle movie as in it fits in between.
In a trilogy, right?
It
right.
fits in between chronologically. The
Right.
trilogy.
Right. So I don't. It's not.
I just hope they make it as good as Rogue One was.
One of the least movies as far as making money goes, Rogue One. I just saw a list earlier. The Force Awakens made twice as much as Rogue One did. You loved it so much you've watched all the seasons of Andor, right?
No, but I have one more episode in season 1. I've been clicking on and off of it. Here's the problem I have with Andor. This is a good thing. The issue with Andor is you have to be locked into Andor. You can't casually watch Andor. You have to be locked in. This is my experience. I have to be locked into Andor. And specifically with everything, little details and whatnot I have to pay attention to, I have to commit to watching Andor. And it's just, there's just not time for that with the stupid schedule I have to live with.
It's too, that's not where we are. It's too political for me. When I started watching, it's it's just I'm not. All right, rights will count. You're not counting good. Let's do this and see what happens. We're still streaming, by the way.
That is right. We are. Hey, guys, thanks for hanging out and watching us type for no reason. You're all incredible. Tell your friends about us. We got to go. Goodbye.